Good morning. Good morning. How you guys doing? Welcome to Deconstructing Christianity. I am your host, Coach Renz. And today we're going to do something that I don't normally do. We're going to get a little political today. It's a little bit political today. Yep. Just a little political. We're going to talk about this ongoing situation in America right now. This ongoing situation in Minnesota. You know, most political things I just keep close to vest, but this was one that, you just can't ignore. So I'm going to, although I've made a video based on the same title that was published yesterday, I want to hear you guys, hear your thoughts, deal with this situation, what people are going through right now, both sides of the camp. Now, just to preface everything, I will probably have to repeat this multiple times. I am an independent. I'm neither Democrat nor Republican. I swore an oath to the Constitution when I was in the Marine Corps. I see things critically as to what they are, not what my party affiliation, not what my gender, my race. None of those things matter to me when it comes to whether something is true or something is false. Now, we can have our opinions of the truth, and that's about it. And that's where we should differ. When I say that, in this situation with Freddie, some people's opinion may be that he should not have come out there with a gun. That's an opinion. But the truth is he had every right to. And where we should agree is on the right to. It's your opinion as whether or not he should have come out with one. It's truth that he did not assault those ICE agents. They assaulted him. That they initiated the assault. It could be your opinion that when the ICE agents pushed the woman against him and then pushed the other woman down, he should not have helped her up. That's your opinion. But the facts are exactly what the facts are. All right. Now, we already have one person on YouTube with the kind of thing that is an opinion. They should let ICE do their job, period. He was not interfering with ICE doing their job. As an American citizen, you have now, let me square something away. DQ, stop writing in all caps. Stop writing in all caps. All right. That's a quick way. We don't do that here. Now, opinion. He should not have approached him. DQ is making some points here. He did not have the right to approach them. When the officers pushed him back, told him to get back, he got back when he was standing on the sidewalk. If you actually watch the video, DQ, he had that part of the altercation was already settled. He moved back. He was recording. He was still recording from the sidewalk. Then they pushed a woman into him. So when they pushed the woman into him, and then when they pushed the other woman down, because the woman they pushed into him was holding on to his waist, and then when they pushed the other woman down, he went over to help the woman get up, and the ICE agent came over and started spraying them with some type of irritant. So you can scream about one aspect of it, but you have to continue the narrative. And in the continuation of the narrative, the ICE agent instigated the physical attack. And here's the thing. You do have a right to approach as long as you remain a certain distance, arm's length distance. You have the right as an American citizen to approach and observe government agents in their work. So it's interesting. People are saying, oh, he should not have approached. What about January 6th? What about January 6th? It's amazing how people forget about the other side. Like, if you're on one side, you forget when your side screw up. Okay, I understand you've been doing it since 1985. That has nothing to do with my life. When you come onto someone else's life, you should respect how they do things. You see, this is what I'm saying. Respect how other people do things. It doesn't matter. Like this, I had somebody tell me, oh, you deleted one of my comments. What about freedom of speech? You don't have freedom of speech on someone else's page. You don't get to just do whatever you want to on someone else's page. Your freedom of speech has nothing to do with social media on somebody else's social media page. Why is this text so small? So I'm asking, no caps, no all caps. But people always forget, oh, you should not have approached. But yet January 6th, they approached. So you don't respect. Okay, bruh, all caps. Really, seriously? I no, I don't care. It's my page. So no. You can make your screen bigger, do whatever you need to do, but no. See, this is the America that irritates me. This is the America that sometimes I regret that I went to war for. Is the America that you can turn your phone sideways and make the keyboard bigger, or you can have to make the keyboard bigger, or you can just stop being on my page. Either way, I don't care. Because it just sounds like an excuse to me. But this is the America that thinks that everybody need to bend to them and their will and their way, and everybody need to allow them to do whatever the hell they want to do. This jacked up vision of America, this lazy mother, these Americans who think that they have rights and privileges that goes beyond the Constitution. Y'all get on my nerves. Like I'm supposed to be discomforted for your comfort. No. No, it doesn't work. Then stop coming, because you're all, I mean, I would love, you can come on and talk. But all these caps, no, it's a violation of how I run things here, and I don't make exceptions. So you are more than welcome to come on here and express your, I'm about to put the link up. You are more than welcome to come on here and express your point of view. Have a discussion about it. But what we're not going to do, I'm not breaking my rules for nobody. I don't give a damn what your issues are. Just simple as that. So, the only problem with your comment about not being able to read smaller, I mean, what? Oh Lord, we getting an early rendition here. Nubs.
Lordy. Let me tell you, Minnesota been kind of chilly.
Indeed. What you got for us, Bishop Nubs?
Well, I'm going to get off the Christian perspective and get on the ICE train. Yeah, go fuck yourself to the ICE agent watching this. Yes, in fact, I think you are a treasonous coward. And the Constitution does apply. And if you signed up, you do realize that you swore an oath to protect and defend said document.
Mhm.
You also signed a document that says if you cause treason, you already understand the punishment of said treason is, in fact, up to 20 years or even unalivement. So there is that as well. So, I would say stop unaliving Minnesotans expressing their First Amendment constitutionally protected rights. Stop putting Minnesotans on said lists because those lists are also unconstitutional and treasonous.
I agree. And especially, these are the most ill-trained people to be doing this job. How do
Well,
you
47 days. I mean, sir, that is adequate training for a monkey trainer. Why would it not be for a monkey itself? Just slap some body armor from the local Dick's Sporting Goods on with a patch that says, I'm too stupid. I mean, ice. And go out there and harass Americans that are expressing their First Amendment right.
exactly stop? Talk regular. I can't talk to you like this.
Okay, I'll stop. I got lots of voices, dude. I could do Mr. Wong. Oh, Mr. Wong, very funny.
We did stop. And all of a sudden, Mr. Wong is telling you Louisiana.
All right. I don't want to be put on a list with my real voice.
Stupid. So it is the saddest part about this whole thing is the fact that this video obviously shows exactly what happened.
Yep.
Yet the first thing that people on the left and right do is come out and start making their decisions about it. Now, it was pretty easy to make your decision about the fact that it was murder. After, I mean, it wasn't like there was like one angle. Like you saw, if you spent 10 minutes looking, you would see at least 5 or 6 different angles of this thing happening. So you get to see every angle, right?
Yep.
But the administration comes out and immediately starts slandering the victim, starts making excuses, starts creating narratives that didn't exist. And what kills me is that people buy it and then they double down on it. Hook, line, and sinker.
Well, see, I think that the family, I'm pretty sure they have every right for a defamation of character lawsuit.
Yeah.
Because I'm pretty sure that's slander. Slander of treason, in fact.
Okay, say that again. Your microphone scrubbed.
I said I'm pretty sure that's slander, and slander by treason, in fact.
Slander by treason. I don't think I've ever heard those two terms put together. What do you mean by that? Slander by treason?
They're claiming that I'm not saying that would be the charge because that's something that I just put together. Oh. But they are claiming that he was being treasonous.
Right. I thought that might be what you meant.
And in fact, by doing what they did, committing treason. So it's slander by treason by treason.
Gotcha. Understood. And I would agree with you because to label someone a domestic terrorist, to speak on what the person's intent was, which is something that none of us can do on either side.
Nope.
If nobody can ever speak to the intent of the person going into any situation. Even with remember the Kyle Rittenhouse?
Rittenhouse. Yep.
We can talk about the facts of everything that happened, but do we really know his intent without him saying it himself? We don't. Whether you like
we
what
can
happened,
find out what Kyle's is. We can find out what Kyle. We can talk to Kyle.
Well, yeah, and that's the difference. You can talk to him, ask him the question.
Right.
He went home that night. Now the situations were totally different. Well, they weren't totally different, but there are some major differences in both those situations, so they are not really parallel to one another.
No, but they both do. They both do directly correlate to the Second Amendment.
Yeah, they do.
Where we have a choice to, here on Minnesota, if I want to walk around with the correct paperwork being done, etc., like following all the Minnesota laws, if I want to go into an area like, I grew up in that neighborhood, and let me tell you, I don't go into that neighborhood unless I'm packing something. Because I know what that neighborhood is all about. I grew up there. So if you live here, you know what you're getting into when you go into said neighborhoods in Minneapolis.
Right. So, and in general, we can say that about certain places. There's a town here in Texas that I would not go into unless I'm going there to start some trouble, because I know that the inhabitants of that city, that they profess no black people ain't welcome here. So I know I'm going in there. If I go there, I'm going to start some mess. You can say that you have an idea of my intent. So we can say that we have an idea of Kyle's intent, but we don't truly know it until we hear it from the man himself, right?
Yep.
No, them coming out saying that they know Preddy's intent, that he was a democratic radicalized domestic terrorist, is asinine that people buy into that. And especially when I hear veterans buying into it, knowing that this man was an ICU veteran nurse.
Right.
He went there to intentionally start trouble. Come on now.
Not just an ICU nurse, but if you listen to the reports of his patients and everything like that, oh my gosh, dude, this guy was like, the reason he was there is probably to make sure people were okay if they got hurt. He was an ICU, like, put A plus B. He was not there to cause bad. He was most likely there to affect triage.
Yeah, exactly.
Because if you've noticed any of these videos, these ICE agents aren't, how do I put it? They're kind of like the schoolroom bully on steroids with a badge. Exactly. And I'm not talking like steroids like that make you muscular. I'm talking like estrogenetic. Like have you seen the health standards of these guys?
Oh, they suck.
I'm pretty sure I've seen less fat on the last ham that I cooked like 15 years ago.
100%. And here's the thing. They think some of these people are the same guys who were at the January 6th, right? Insurrection. And they think, and a lot of these people are Christian nationalists. They think they're doing God's work in all that they are doing. They think that this is God's work. And I know we're supposed to have a separation of church and state. And this is what I'm saying based on the title of this video today, is the fact that these people don't separate. They're indoctrinated into a politics, and they're indoctrinated into a religion, and they're marrying the two together, thinking that, and people do it on both sides. Democrats think that they are doing God's work politically. Republicans think they're doing God's work politically. But we can see a difference. There is a difference in how they do it. Right now, this current version, and it hasn't always been this way to this degree where it's supported by government. but you've always had some militarized Democrats, some militarized Republicans, but usually they were low level in the background. These jokers are walking around with full government support. Reminds me of when Christianity gained power through the Roman Empire. And I don't think people see that.
Well, it's because they don't know history. And if you don't know where you came, you're bound to go back there.
And we're headed there. And what happened when Rome backed Christianity? They decimated any other versions of religions and people who were for a different religion. Even within their own religion, they declared people to be heretics. And we don't even have to go that far back. When you look at...
Dude, think about it. Think about it. They stole history. They literally not just changed history, but like history that had happened. They went in and either decimated the people so the people couldn't speak of the history, and then removed the books, etc. Like they removed history. Like lots of people, like the Crusades are just the beginning tipping point.
Yeah.
The Jesuits are not good people, but they're represented as good people. And we listen to Ouchie Fauci and, oh, we'll trust this and trust that. No, dude, I don't trust nobody.
No, and you shouldn't. Like, I made sure that I brought a picture in here just to clarify. I don't trust none of these motherfuckers. Because this is interesting that all this shit is happening in the same state at the same time, right? That you had the whole Somali fraud thing happen, and now nobody's saying anything about the Somali fraud. Nobody's saying one word about that. And you know what else no one's saying anything about? No one's saying anything about the Epstein files right now. Everybody is focused on this. Nobody, if they've forgotten about what happened in Venezuela, they're not paying attention to this, to Greenland. They're focused just on this. This is the major news cycle. And everybody's jumping on it from whatever perspective that they view things. But we talk about spirituality, religion here on this channel. So let's focus on where we at. If those of us who do not agree with these religions, we cannot sit idly by and think that this is not our fight. Because eventually they will force this religion on you or kill you. Right? Just like Nels was saying, they will do like the Roman Empire did. When they took on Christianity, they destroyed everybody else. They killed everybody else. Hitler did the same thing. His small group, if you remember, if you go back and do the research, the Nazi Party was a small group of people. The majority of Germans were not part of the Nazi Party. But they did ice like shit, and they wound up ruling the whole country. And we see the results of that, right? You studied that history, Nels, haven't you?
Oh, yeah. Well, not even all that, but they also created this historian named Josephus to write them into the history.
Mm-hmm.
Like the whole thing is a stage. The whole world is a stage, and you're just a player. And if you don't realize that you're an actor, well, you're just a person, right? A persona, a face, a mask.
Right. And this is why I had to bring this conversation up today. You know, usually when things are happening in the news cycles, I try to avoid them because I want this channel to be about what this is. And I know that there are people on this channel who are on both the left and the right. But at the end of the day, this one can't be avoided because I see that similarity of what happened in Nazi Germany. And living in Germany for three and a half years, you know what I heard the most from World War II veterans who were Germans? And after they said that they were sorry, they were in disbelief, but things had ramped. They never thought the Nazi Party would actually take over and that they will be in that situation. Like these guys, when they was in their 20s, early 30s, they were sitting at home thinking, oh, they doing this stuff, but they're a little group. They're not that powerful. They're not going to take over. And
They're
then the
just some
next thing you know-
Christian nationalists. They're not going to do nothing.
Right. That's what these World War II German veterans thought when things were happening as they were happening. Or they were telling me how their parents was talking, and their parents would be like, they're never going to take over. What happens?
Gotcha, bitch.
They exactly. And here we are. And people can scream like we got Sean Cope saying Democratic Party are the Nazis. Which party has a group of armed, government-sanctioned people taking people out of their homes?
Hey, I got an interesting one for you. Have you ever seen the TV show Man in the High Tower?
Actually, I didn't. I didn't watch that one.
Watch that shit and tell me that's not what we have. Because let me tell you the general premise. So in the show, Hitler won. Okay.
Right.
And they took over America, and the prominently eastern part of the United States up to about the Mississippi / a little bit more was all under German control.
Mhm.
And then the other side of the country was under the control of the Japanese.
Right.
Okay, so our country was literally split. And both ruled with an iron fist. Both didn't trust each other. Both worked against each other, but they worked in peace to keep the peace.
Right.
And it's set back in like the 1950s-ish. So like there's not modern stuff and everything like that. But if that were hypothetically the timeline, well, you could put one group with red and one group with blue. And irony, they were all out to fuck you.
Yeah. Okay. And I might go ahead and check out that series. What is it on?
I think it's Hulu, I want to say.
I'll look it up. Don't worry about it. But yeah,
I'm the wrong one to ask.
And let me be clear again. I am an independent. So in that scenario, the Nazis may be the Republicans and the Japanese is the Democrats. I think both parties are out to fuck the people, period.
Well, that was No Man's Land. They existed in the show.
Now, the biggest problem is how it's being conducted. Democrats want to keep poor people poor. I don't give a shit what you say. Well, I do care what you say. But when we look at the grand scheme of it, Democrats work on an economic level of keeping poor people poor. That's how they keep getting their votes. That was one of the things I realized when I was in my late 20s, early 30s.
Well, yeah, that's how they keep control, because if you are the hand that feeds, you control those that you feed.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And then the Republicans, they want to keep you in fear. They utilize this current version of the Republicans are utilizing fear. And,
I would say they're using both sides of that. They're using, because Trump came out and said, hey, if these cities want to be sanctuary cities, we're going to cut funding.
You're right, but he's doing that because those are democratically controlled cities.
Right, but what I'm saying though is the same tactics are used by both sides. It's just how it's presented as the like they're both using the same weapons.
Except you can't find, prior to post Civil War, you cannot find the Democratic Party where they use military fear. military personnel in order to enforce.
No,
compliance.
that's true.
And even with the Republicans, you didn't see this until now.
Right.
Until like over these last 8 years is when you've seen it. It started with the insurrection.
I'd say since Trump got into the politics.
No, well, his first term, he didn't do this.
No.
See, I'm gonna call it like it is. His first term,
but it was build up.
Now I don't know why he didn't do it his first term. Maybe because he knew he wouldn't get a second. I don't know. That's just speculation. But it's not until the insurrection is like this wild hair got up their ass like, oh, you mean we can violently attack the American citizens and ain't shit gonna happen. Nobody's gonna fight back. Because literally, you didn't get any pushback from none of it. You know, the majority of the insurrectioners did not face any kind of punishments whatsoever. The majority. There were only a few, and then he pardoned all of them. But now they're using military tactics. They're trying to throw the world into fire, to a war. This is the bullshit. Hold on. Miss Fifi, was that purposeful or accidental? Let me know. But that's and we sitting by and we're not doing nothing. You know, the Constitution gives you the right to abolish the American government.
Yep.
I don't think people realize that if there's a government in place, that the American Constitution gives you the right to abolish the fucking government. And you know what them jokers were talking about back then? War.
Yes, they were. And how do we know that that's what they were talking about? Because these were the very men that were at war with a particular foreign entity, kind of like a foreign government or a foreign company. Said company like the Corporation of the United States of America. Oh, wait, no, that's not a corporation. That's a wait a second. Is it corporation or is it country?
Here's a corporation. You know it.
Oh, wait a second. How can a man be a citizen of a corporation? But by contract.
By contract.
Anyway,
just going off into. Let Miss Fifi get up here real quick.
All righty. Well, I will stay warm.
Stay warm.
And I will continue to express my rights as an American, not American citizen necessarily, just a American, you know.
Gotcha.
Different class.
Yes, indeed.
Much love, brother.
Much love. And before I go to Miss Fifi, there was a statement that I saw, which this is a valid point. You guys make good points, but you also have your own bias. And if people like you were in charge, you do the same as Christians and other groups, possibly worse. Yes, we all do have our own bias, our own thought process. Would mine? I can speak for mine. I can't speak for Nubs or anybody else. Would mine be worse than Christians or any other group? No, it wouldn't. I can tell you that right off the bat because I have knowledge of self. And I would, and my mind thinks at a different level than most humans. We wouldn't be doing the shit that we doing to people if I was president of the United States. I can tell you that right now. I know that for a fact. We wouldn't be snatching people out of their houses. I wouldn't put untrained people on the streets with guns. Miss Fifi.
If I was president, if I was God, you know, people say these things.
They do.
You know, but I'm just answering the prompt. But really, what I want to go back to is you were talking about the people in Germany and how the Nazi party was a small party.
Yes.
Is that correct? Okay. And all of that is true. The only difference between them and us is that we have guns. Oh, sorry. Pew pew.
Oh, I don't care. I say guns all the time.
Okay. Well, we have pew pews.
Yeah.
And we are able to defend ourselves to a point.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, are we fighting the regime, the brown regime as they call them, that's running around now? Or do we, are we in a fight with the government? Oh,
Well, we are. Unfortunately, we are somewhat in a fight with the government because
boy.
it is we're in a fight with the government because these people are backed by the government. In the same way, once the Nazi Party was government, they were able to utilize the other forces within the German government, the military, the police. They were able to, make them do what they wanted them to do. And that's our situation now. We have a regime that is utilizing Border Patrol, utilizing, ICE, utilizing military service members to push their own narrative of fear through martial law, pretty much. It's like I'm doing martial law without doing martial law, without declaring it. And yeah, it is a big difference that we also carry guns. It will be much harder to do. Now, I'll be honest though, if the American military forces decided that they were going to follow in with some orders of martial law, Americans can do a little bit, but you're not going to be able to do too much.
Right.
The best.
We don't have the capacity.
No, it'll be like guns versus arrows. Shit, it wouldn't even be arrows. It'll be guns versus clubs. Mm-hmm. You bought a club to a gunfight. Mm-hmm. Because I was having a conversation with some veterans a couple weeks ago, and we was talking about the fact that a basic Marine can hit a target at 500 yards. Mm-hmm. Most civilians can't do that. So it's not a fair fight. It's not a fair fight. Yeah, I mean, now the thing about it'll last for a while.
I think against their own people. This is weird.
Because just like the Roman government, they think that they are doing what's best for the people, and this is let me rephrase that. They think they're doing what's best to keep the empire, is what the Romans were doing, and they think that what they're doing, that this is what's best to keep the American empire, because America in their mind is a Christian nation. So for them, they have to have dominance. They have to demand, they have to force. See, this is why I say if I was president, I'm not forcing anybody to stop being Christian or stop being Muslim or anything like that. I'm gonna perpetuate. Y'all should be able to worship in freedom. However you want to worship, long as you're not violating someone else's rights, go worship. Go do whatever.
Law, isn't it? Isn't it written in the Bill of Rights?
Yeah.
That you're able to do that?
Yeah, you have freedom of religion. And people should have freedom of religion.
Yeah.
And when it comes,
I want them to do whatever's gonna make them feel good.
Yeah. Exactly. I want you to be happy. Even though I disagree with it, be happy. Long as you now that tax-free bullshit, no, we're gonna get rid of that.
You mean the churches?
Yeah, churches, mosques, synagogues, all that tax-free stuff. Hell no, y'all paying taxes. Yeah, we ain't doing no tax-free bullshit. Separation of religion and state does not mean you get tax-free. So I'm getting rid of that.
Well, you can't get rid of it because a lot of them aren't like those 501, 401s, those non-profits.
I'm getting rid of it.
Hmm? You getting rid of all of it?
I'm getting rid of the tax-free for religious organizations. Everybody's paying taxes. They ain't gonna be no, they gonna pay taxes. just because you believe in some God doesn't mean you should not have to pay taxes. The Bible itself tells, Jesus is telling his people, pay your taxes. Him and Paul agree on paying them taxes. So no, they paying taxes.
I think that was like kind of pushed up in there.
It was, but because Rome thought that's a good thing.
Like kind of amended a sentence or
I know Paul and y'all paying taxes, and so these people think that they are bringing America closer to God, to the God that they believe in. They're literally trying to force their religion on the American population, and then they use that to cover the other bullshit they're doing. Immigration ain't got nothing to do with their Bible, really.
No.
The Jesus character was, and even the Democrats like to say Jesus was an immigrant. No, the hell he wasn't. He wasn't an immigrant.
No, he wasn't. He was in his hometowns.
Right. And even if he went to Egypt, he was still within the Roman Empire. He was under Roman rule. So he didn't immigrate. He didn't have to have immigration papers. In the Matthew version of him going to Egypt, that wasn't immigrating. That was moving. That was like me moving from, Georgia to Mississippi. Ain't no difference. I'm still under the same government, just a different state level. So he was just under, it would have been just a different provincial level rulership. So no. So even when the Democrats talk about, oh, Jesus was an immigrant and we should let all the immigrants, no. He wasn't an immigrant. Stop trying to put your Bible on it. Go ahead.
I think that they had some legislation that it seemed to be a good thing for America and for immigrants. And so because of who we have making decisions for us, it's like they got it and broke it.
Yeah.
I don't know how to say that without saying it.
No, just say it. Don't pull no punches on my channel. Don't pull the punches on my channel.
Well, anyway, okay, so we have legislation. We know that we can fix this situation.
Mm-hmm.
We know that there is a lawful bill out there that can be put into legislation, and that will just cool down the situation so we can concentrate on the American people, since it's such a big thing. And so Democrats and Republicans, they are not talking about this bill that can help the horrors that's going on. You understand what I'm saying?
Exactly. Like all this immigration stuff.
It has nothing to do with what's going on.
Right. Well, the thing about immigration, it's a complex situation. You don't want to take, even though I know it says, give us your humble, you're tired, you're meek. I understand that saying.
That was the East Coast facing.
Right. But you want a balance of allowing people from various situations to be able to come into the country. Because at the end of the day, you need all of those people. You need the people who got higher levels of education. But you also need the people who don't have that they are laborers. Because look at what's happening to the farmers now that this immigration thing is taken away, and they're focused on those people. You haven't seen them going into any corporate offices, grabbing the VP of any company, and they're not, even though those people are of the same legal status, meaning that they are on visa. You got some of them whose visa has expired. I knew of a couple people who was working in upper management at a company, and their visas were expired, but they were still working, and they were damn near VP level. So there's people in all levels, but they're not paying attention to them, not even a little bit. And then the focus, but when you focus only on the easy targets, the low-hanging fruit, you've hurt the farmers. Now we got it. I guarantee when I start this tax season,
Oh boy.
that when I review the Pub 70, I guarantee that there are extra things made out for farmers for this year, because farmers have lost a lot of their employees and weren't able to bring in their crops. And they're going to struggle this upcoming year and not be able to plant like they normally would, or rotate crops or whatever they do in the spring, because they're not going to have the people to do it. So we screw ourselves over with this whole situation. And one of the best ways to keep people under control is to create chaos. You got to create chaos, and that's what
he definitely did that.
And
It's a drama.
Yeah. And then all of this stuff, and there's a guy on YouTube just made a good comment. He said, "Where's ICE at in Texas?"
Florida, where they are,
right.
Where the migrants are.
Exactly. You got more immigrants at the low-hanging fruit that they're looking for in Texas, California, Arizona, Florida. There's more there. There's more in Colorado, probably, than definitely in places like Oklahoma. Any place where there's farming, that you're going to find more. And although ICE has been here, I've seen them. They got active in San Antonio like a week ago. It's nothing like what's going on in Minnesota. It's nothing like that, right?
Yeah, because I don't even see any people. Well, you really can't see them because everybody is all cold and bubbled up. But there is a lot of white tea people who are fighting, and I'm thinking they're not necessarily fighting for the immigrants. They're fighting for their rights.
Yeah.
To be, not punted on by the brown people.
Exactly. And here's another thing about up north and in these places, like you were alluding to. It's easy to pick out the immigrants in places like Minnesota than it is in somewhere like San Antonio. If you can go into an office in San Antonio and or any workplace, any business, and you can't tell if that person has been here for generations or if they just got here.
That's the same here in Florida.
You would not be able to tell, which they would make even more mistakes of grabbing the wrong people here than what they would then in places like Minnesota and Ohio. They're easier targets.
And why do they focus on the peaceful protesting? With all they say about people protesting, they don't say they are knocking out windows or setting fires or any of the rioting that you would think that people would go after. They're not doing that. There's no report of that. They're just walking down the street.
Yeah. I didn't see people busting up some windows until after they shot Freddie. That's the first time I saw somebody busting some windows. Prior and shooting some bottle rockets and stuff. Prior to that, none of the protests was violent. No one, they were just walking down the street or doing the whistle thing, where as soon as the ICE agents show up, you got like 20 people out there blowing whistles. They were doing that. So this whole violent thing is actually the tiny bit of violence that you have seen has been in response to them murdering two people. And really it's a response to the second person. The first person, you didn't get any violence. It's after this one that is just clear cut execution. Now then some people did act violently in one spot, breaking some windows. I think they went in. I think I saw some people inside of a building with some Roman candles. But these jokers, you just had a situation yesterday where they were praying. They had different faith, praying at the Minnesota airport, and they were dragging people off and arresting them because they were doing a sit-in. They were doing a sit-in at the airport, and I understand if you're blocking entrance ways so that people who are trying to travel, you can't block that. You can't not allow business to function. But if people are not in a position where they're not stopping people, not harassing people, why are you dragging people away?
Because they're making people aware of what's going on in a peaceful way.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so I guess in order to stop all this, we just have to become white nationalists. Is that the thing? If we all just come under some rulership, with that rulership, then we'll go and attack somebody else.
Go attack somebody else and still oppress the ones who are in there, because you and I do not fit the white nationalist movement.
If we sit in the back of the church
and put a finger up when we want asking Master for permission to walk out the church.
That's right.
You know, I need to do a video about that finger shit. Get on my.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I'm glad you're talking about this. I know you don't talk about political things, but right now it's kind of intertwined, and I know you got people waiting.
Yeah.
So thank you for having me up, and I'll be listening, and I'll be screaming in the comments.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Miss Fifi. All right. How do I do this?
Can't drop me.
I'm trying to hit the button. I was about to hit the wrong one though, but I'm looking for. I got you.
Okay.
Got you. Let's see. I know I missed some questions. I'm gonna bring Miss DC up here in a second. I do think the rest of the world is watching America, but and looking at the hypocrisy. How are we sending people to Iran because they killed some protesters in Iran, and yet we're killing some protesters here? America walks around because America has a big stick and is a bully. And I've seen that happen before, where a person becomes the bully when they used to get bullied. But as soon as they get some power, they then become the bully. And America has become the bully in this most recent times. Which is sad. It's a sad state. And it's something, but it's something that happens when any nation becomes too powerful. It then begins to exert its power, thinking that it is doing what's best for the world. No one thinks they're the villain. Idi Amin did not think that he was the villain. Leopold did not think that he was the villain. There are some countries who are going to support America, depending upon what their interests are. Some countries are going to support America, some countries aren't. So when he said America, the world is watching, yeah, the world is watching. What their opinion is going to differ. Those who disagree with Iran, they're going to support America's movement towards Iran. Those who are gaining money from America and doing well, they're going to, well, yeah, go and take Greenland. You know, they don't care. Apathy. It's just a part of how all this bullshit is. It's part of being human. It's one of the reasons why war will never end. Starvation will never end. Poverty will never end. We're always this. And I realized this when I used to do a political talk radio show on an AM channel in Atlanta. I did it for like 8-9 months. And I was concerned when I was first asked to do it, because I was like, What am I going to talk about every day? I mean, well, I did it 3 days a week. What am I going to talk about for 3 days? And the news director was like, there's always something new coming. The world will always have a new news cycle, right? We will continuously be in this situation where shit is going down every time, right? But trying to impose this God's will on people is the reason why we are having the situation that we're having now with this immigration, because they think they're doing God's work. They think that this is the moral standard of their God, which to a certain degree, it is the moral standard of it is the moral standard of this God. When Joshua was told to go into the so-called promised land, he was told to genocide all the people. And for those that you could not genocide, make them your slaves. And for those neighboring countries, make them your slaves. So America going after Greenland, America going after Venezuela, America treating the foreigner as a slave is all part of Christian morality. And they justify it, whether they admit it or not. Bible believers like to claim the high moral ground. But the God of their morality has less morals than the average person. Even the people, most of the people who believe in this God has a higher moral standard than the God that they believe in. They won't admit it, but they do. They do it all the time. They do it all the time. Because most Christians, if you look at it, even they are losing, even the Republican base. A lot of the Republican base is against some of the bullshit that's going on. So they have a higher moral standard than what's going on. But they're sitting by. They ain't doing nothing. If this was, and I'm surprised, and this really shows some of the weakness of the Democratic Party. If Biden was doing what Trump is doing now, the Republicans would be calling for impeachment. But the Democrats ain't doing shit. They ain't doing a damn thing. They come out on the news, they make a couple of statements, whatever. But I've only seen one Democrat actually come out and say something strong about this. And that's the young lady from Texas, matter of fact. What's her name? Crockett. I think she's the only Democrat that I've seen stand up to this. I haven't seen another, and y'all correct me because I don't watch all the news. So let me know if I'm wrong. I haven't seen a coalition of Democrats calling for firings, calling for impeachments. But if Biden, I will give Republicans the credit. If Biden was doing this, them motherfuckers they got balls enough. They got the cojones. They be calling for impeachment. They would. They be calling for impeachment, but you don't see that with the Democrats. That's why they're going to, before this, I was on the side of saying that the next election, midterms, the Democrats will probably win some midterms, but the next presidential election, I doubt very seriously if the Democrats will win. I know the independents and the libertarians are not going to win, and that's usually where my vote goes. But I don't think the Democrats are going to win. I don't think they have any balls. And I don't think America is ready for Jasmine Crockett. That's her name. She probably right now got the best chance at winning for the Democratic Party. but I don't think that she'll be able to win right now. We still got 3 years to see. We got 3 years. Now, Miss Fifi is saying Democrats will win because of the chaos. I don't know. They ain't showing they ain't showing nothing right now. They kind of sitting back in the cut. They ain't really. If the Democrats wanted to win, this would be, what did somebody term this? This would be their Gettysburg. This right now is their Gettysburg to turn the tide. And they should be using it because I think you got midterms this year. Yeah, there's midterms this year. This would be their opportunity to turn the tide. But what are they doing? Do you see Democrats other than Waltz and his group saying anything? And right now, if Waltz and his group say anything, most people back of their mind is thinking, oh, he just saying to distract people from the Somali fraud situation. They're not going to take him seriously. Glenn said there are currently over 1 million signatures for impeachment. 400 million people in this country. It's a drop in the bucket. Now, I understand not everybody votes and not everybody can vote of that 400 million. But who's leading this impeachment signings? Is this a grassroots movement? Is this outside force? Is it led by anyone in the House or the Senate? That would be my question for the 1 million signatures. Oh, you mean 100,000 signatures? You had an extra zero in there, brother. But you just made it worse, Glenn. You had 1 million. You wrote 1 million the first time, then you put 100,000. Okay, but who's leading it? 100,000 signatures. That ain't shit. That's nothing. There should be. This should be Nixon level shit. You know what I'm saying? Think about it. Nixon was about to be impeached for Watergate. This is bigger than Watergate. And nobody's saying anything. They are afraid. Booker on my shit list too. I don't know who Booker is. Like, I try not to pay attention to most politics. So you're gonna have to educate me on some of these people. Did you hear that Waltz broke down and begged Trump to remove some of the ICE? I heard him pleading. Yes, I heard him pleading. They are terrified of Trump. That's the sad part. They are terrified of this man. He has scared the shit. He has scared whatever courage. Oh, Cory Booker. What people expect when they don't have the White House, Senate, House, Representative Nixon didn't have wealth behind him. No, Nixon didn't. But at least show it. Would an impeachment go through? Would it be voted on to go all the way through? Most likely not. They don't have the votes. Unless they turn some Republicans, they don't have the votes. But some Republicans are turning against him. But maybe you got Republicans who are afraid of this man too. But if you have a situation where they have an opportunity, they can see the pathway and know that they won't get hurt. Because if they vote for it and fail, you know he petty. He gonna come after him, as most people would. Like, oh, you motherfucker tried to impeach me, and you voted against me, and we're supposed to be on the same side. Yeah. You gonna get some of this, but they're not. What does a Democrat have to lose? by trying to an impeachment? Nothing. What does a Democrat have to lose by, like, let's say if I was running for office here in Texas and I was running under the Democrats, I'd be in Minnesota right now. Even though I hate the cold, I'd be in Minnesota. I'd show up. I'd be on the front line. I'd let it be known. Right? I'm not going to sit back and just let it happen. That's what the German citizenship did. They sat back and let it happen. And then once it all happened, they found themselves in an impossible situation because they didn't have the ability at that point to really do anything about it. That's what almost every old German person that I talked to, and I was very inquisitive about that because I'm in my 20s and I'm really trying to understand, how can y'all let this happen? Because when I first went there, I thought everybody was for it. And then I was shocked when I found out that the majority of people weren't. And the fact that they're using the Bible to have this control is really, I mean, it's brilliant. It's a brilliant move if you're on that side. Galvanize the people through their religious belief, their fear of hell, their hope of heaven, and get the people thinking that we are doing God's work. You get people thinking they're doing God's work, they'll do anything. Look at the Crusades. Pope said this is God's work. Fools went off and died. Ibn Sahi said this is God's work. And Arabs conquered all the way across North Africa and into the Iberian Peninsula. You get people thinking they're doing something for God, and they will do any treacherous thing you ask them to do because they think that God is saying that this is right. Kill all the babies. God is right. The God wants us to do this. Okay, please explain how the Minnesota thing has anything to do with people thinking they're doing God's work. So the majority of the people who were recruited into this so-called ICE agency are Christian nationalists, and they believe that America is a Christian country. And in order to keep this Christian country Christian, then one of the things they have to do is remove all the illegal immigrants. Now, these people already had their political leanings of, anti-immigrations. But then when they think that, well, as far as they think Trump is doing God's work, so whatever policies Trump put out there are God inspired. Plus, like the video I did yesterday or the day before, the Bible actually tells you that you're supposed to follow the lead of your leadership. Now, it says that your leadership is appointed by God and that you should pray for that leadership. Now, you can make the case that, well, is the leader doing what God says to do? Well, if the leader is appointed by God, then most of what he does should be according to God's law. According to the law of this God, you loving your neighbor only applies to people of your own tribe. And in this case, it'll be people of your own nation. So only Americans. So America for Americans, make America great again. That to the foreigners, you can treat harshly in the same way that Joshua treated foreigners harshly, that Moses treated foreigners harshly, that the Israelites treated the Canaanites harshly. So they believe that they are doing God's work. And they think that through this type of thing, that they are making people who claim to be Christian in Minnesota to do Christianity the way they're supposed to. One of the head persons of ICE is a Christian minister. He's the one that, and I thought it was completely wrong for them to invade the man's church. and protest during their church service. That was completely wrong. But they were protesting because he's supposed to be preaching Jesus and the mind of love thy neighbor as far as loving everybody, but yet he's over some division of ICE in Minnesota, and he's a pastor. So they was in the man's church. I don't think that you have the right to go inside somebody's church and protest. That's just me. So I think, who was that? Don Lemon, who did that? I think that's wrong. But I do think it's hypocritical for the modern Christian doctrine says to your neighbor is everyone in the world, for this person to be over ICE and they are dragging people out of their homes. And it's all based on your accent and your race. You don't see them dragging Canadians. You don't see them saying, oh, you sound Canadian. You must be illegal. Let me drag you out of your home and out of your car. You don't see that happening. Oh, you sound British. Let me drag you out of your car. No, oh, you got pigmentation in your skin. You got higher levels of pigmentation in your skin, I should say. And you sound like you have a Spanish accent or an African accent or a Caribbean accent. So you must be illegal. Let me see your papers. They think they're doing it as God's work. They are far from it. Well, you know what? Let me retract that. They're not far from it. They are far from how they modernize this God today. But they're doing exactly what the Bible says, though. Doing exactly what the Bible says. And they're just following that part of the Bible. And you see very little pushback. And these people, they're going to push it. I got a guy I went to high school with, and I started to put this on my personal page in hopes that he would come on, because I kind of do want to argue with him. Because he doesn't realize he has become the bully when he used to get bullied himself. But he claims Christianity, yet he supports everything that Trump does. It doesn't matter. He supports all of it. And I find that amazing. I find that so crazy. I'm going to put this link out there, but let me look up something real quick that somebody asked me about. 1 Samuel 15:3. I don't know by heart. First Samuel 15. Our Lord sent me to anoint you as king over his people of Israel, and therefore listen to the words of the Lord. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, I will punish the Amalekites for what they have did in opposing the Israelites when they came up out of Egypt. Now go back and attack Amalek and utterly destroy all that they have. Do not spare them, but kill both the men, the women, the children, the infants, the oxen, the sheep, the camel, and the donkey. It's self-explanatory. This God is for genocide. That, the Amalekites were the enemies of the Israelites, and so for your enemies, you are to genocide them all the way down to anything that has breath. Kill all the women, kill all the children. So when people say that this God of the Bible is a good and kind God, is a moral God, what moral God would kill the men, the women, and the children? I mean, it's clear. Kill both the man, the woman, the children, and infant, oxen and sheep, camel and donkey. So this God doesn't even value the life of animals. This God doesn't value the life of an infant. When they say that, oh, they're like, Christians will use the Bible to say, oh, God is for pro-life. 1 Samuel 15 shows that he is not pro-life. He is pro-genocide. What aggression can a child or an infant bring? What aggression would a donkey or camel bring when they are conquered? None whatsoever. None. IG, what say you, sir? Unmute your mic, IG. IG, unmute your mic.
I did. Can you hear me?
I hear you now.
What's happening? I was talking. I was like, can you hear me? Can you hear me now? You can, right?
I can hear you now.
Okay. What's happening? Getting ready for the plantation. But yeah, like that, the line between politics and government was always kind of clear and blurred in the text. Like I think I've mentioned this to you before when they did the whole thing with gay marriage as the same gender loving man. I learned then that people believe based off of how the state dictates to them how to believe.
Mm-hmm.
It was never about, that's like for me, it's never about the deityism, why God is real. This is the utilitarianism of it. It's how people are using it in the structure of government and law. So, I really can see why these people are, like you said, are having a hard time saying what's the Christian thing to do. It annoys me because it's like, well, y'all want to say do what the Bible said. They are literally doing what the Bible tells them to do, and I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
So it's a consequence of us playing that slippery slope, always picking and choosing. And I really think, especially as Black Americans and Black people in particular, you you went ahead and went along with this. You let this be your compass for morality. You let this be your compass for morality against gays. You let this compass to be morality against women. And now that very same compass, that slippery slope that you were sliding down in order for you to feel like you're socially acceptable, it's now being turned around and used for everyone. So I'm being a little pedantic today. It's like, well, yeah, I think that people are getting unfortunately, what they have put in the universe to deserve. It was okay as long as the rabbit had the gun. It was okay as long as it didn't happen to you. Now
Yeah.
that everything is happening to everybody else, I'm kind of like, oh hell, oh well, we tries to told you, especially Black Americans with all of the killings and unaliving. I'm not saying I don't have sympathy for any life lost, but it's unfortunate that human nature, we are the type of species as humanoids that where it has to happen to you in order for you to be empathetic. It has to happen to you.
Yeah, and that's the sad part about it. That's why I love this. I heard this German quote, like 30 years ago. So I don't get it right all the time, but the man was saying that, and he was a person who was in Germany, and he was saying that when they came after the handicap, I didn't say anything because I wasn't handicapped. When they came after the gypsies, I didn't say anything because I wasn't gypsy. When they came after the Jews, I didn't say anything because I wasn't Jewish. But by the time they came after the Protestants, and I'm Protestant, there was no one left standing to speak up for me.
Right.
And effectively saying that he should have stood up in the very beginning when they were isolating one group and harassing one group, because by the time eventually they will get to your group. So if for Black people, I've heard a lot of Black people saying that this ain't our fight, because it's not happening to Black people, but it is. But then there's the separation. Oh, that's happening to Haitians. That's happening to Somalis. That's happening to Nigerians. Those are not our people. I'm a Black American. At some point, if this continues to be the trend, it will happen to Black Americans. Now, I like this one girl's video. Deport me to Rwanda. Deport me to Zambia. Go ahead, come knock at my door. And you want to deport me to one of them countries? I'm good. I'm fine. I'll take it. And that's a joke, but the truth of it is, at some point it will happen to you. So you can't sit back and not take up the fight or say anything. This is why this is one of the reasons why I had to bring this conversation up today, because we have to stand. Because do you think that atheists would not be part of the group that they try to eliminate, that they try to get rid of? Because according to Christians, atheists have no morals. We just want to run around and kill people. And if we don't support when they're attacking the LGBTQ community, if we don't support when they're attacking, the immigrants, then eventually they will get to you. But there'll be no one standing there to help you at that point. You're standing all alone. But people,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
But I was just gonna say, but people are like what you're saying. They lack that because it hasn't directly affected them yet. Go ahead.
I do agree, but here's the only thing, speaking on behalf of Black Americans, but see, that's just the problem. Everyone has sit back. When we had the 1965 Immigration Acts, and like to quote this a lot, because people fail to realize before the mass immigration of other brown people of color, before that Immigration Act, people were to the right of the decimal that lived in this country. Now, I'm bringing that point to bring that up because since the 1965 Immigration Acts, we've had a huge influx of, other, foreign blacks. Now, what has happened though?
You mean integration?
Immigration, yeah, I call them I only like to say foreign blacks because they're not descendant of the American Negro.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But the mass influx of other blacks outside of American descendant of slavery, you didn't see the uptick of mass immigration so after that. So what has happened though? So while we were having things that happened even more recently with the murdering of unarmed black people, you saw what you're seeing though. Haitians and people of color don't show up. The Rainbow Coalition and the LGBT and the Latin community doesn't show up when all these things have been happening to us. We're not the ones as Black Americans. We actually have been showing up. We're the ones out there crying at the border. We're the ones out there talking about for women when it comes to politics now, how we stand in our politics. So I don't think, just to give you some pushback, it's not our job to be the moral compass, because had everybody followed the moral compass and political path that we were doing, because see, we vote, just a quick facts. We as Black Americans vote at a critical mass. What does that mean? That means all of the other groups of people of color, because they immigrate from different countries, they don't come with the same type of historical anchoring of Jim Crow, redlining, and slavery. So when they're coming, they're not coming in to be part of the group of the losing team of Black folks. So what you're seeing, why Black Americans who are saying this is not my problem, we're not necessarily saying that. We're saying that, okay, when it was just our problem, you didn't care to protest when it was just happening to us. So now, unfortunately, we're aware that I think that we're not thinking it can't happen to us. No, we know it can happen to us. It's been happening, maybe not the deep mass deportation, but the unaliving without warranties, that's been happening to us. Everyone is desensitive to it. So now that it's happening to other white people of color, because when you deal with Hispanics and Latinos, most of them identify as white. Unfortunately, don't take my word for it. When you deal with all the other groups that have come here, like Haitians and Black immigrants, they don't come here and build businesses with Black Americans. They're not here anchoring themselves. Matter of fact, they're coming here with the respectability politics of the white supremacists. They're buying into all of the propaganda. Oh, y'all are lazy. They don't tell us about our civil rights, rights and everything that we did to afford for them to come here. And neither, and I keep saying this too, we do not. You're saying now there's a movement, but baby, you can't find in none of these other brown peoples of color's history where us, the American Negro, are involved in blocking plans and things in their countries. Like we don't have Black people speaking on what Haitians should do in their government. We don't have Black Americans in Nigeria. What happens is that they come over here and get to stand in our places. So when we talk about stuff like reparations, the people who are more against that are going to be Black immigrants. Because if you're talking about reparations for people who are from this land that happen here in America, they're not saying you're my brother, melanin, pop, pop, pop. No, they instantly, the people who from their countries now who are in governmental positions are the ones that are blocking things or they're against things that are going to benefit the Black Americans that made sure they were here. So just to give you some nuance on that, it's not that we don't think it's going to happen to us. We just know when it only happens to us. All of these other POCs have been on mute. So no, you can't expect us to be the fronts of coming out there to speak when we got 30, 40, 50 years, baby, on paper to show how brown immigrants and Negro immigrants come and band together. They don't come and band with the American Negro.
I understand what you're saying, and I agree with most of what you're saying. I will add a little bit to it because I'm not a finite person. In the civil rights movement, there were smatterings of other people, Jews, and white people.
Yeah.
One thing that I don't know how long you've been in Atlanta. One thing you will realize very quickly, if you haven't already, now during the Black Lives Matter, it wasn't supported by the white LGBTQ community, but it was supported by the Black LGBT community, and there is a difference in the Black and the white LGBTQ. It's not.
Oh, you know I know. You know I know.
And one easy example of that, and the reason why I said Atlanta, you'll recognize it. There's a Black Pride weekend, and then there's the White Pride weekend. The white one is the one that happens Labor Day weekend in Atlanta, and if you've seen it, it's big. They come out, black people come out for that one too. But when they have the Black one, which I think is Memorial Day weekend, you don't see no white people. The white people, they're not supporting the Black LGBTQ community in Atlanta. So I will say that in Black issues, the Black LGBT community comes out strong. Now, as far as, and then there's a smattering of non-American born and bred who do support these things. But my point is, we can't wait for them to join us, because we haven't done what we should have and should be doing in America ourselves, which is building a power base so that when these people come in, they would identify with us. We haven't done that. The only power base that they can, that when people come into a new country, they want to identify with those who are in power.
Correct.
So this is why here in San Antonio, you'll see, I haven't seen it myself. I've heard that there is a decent sized group of Spanish who identify with white here.
I could tell you, I've lived there half my life. I can tell you for sure. I've been a citizen enumerator in that country twice. Go ahead.
And I can tell, I don't know, the only way I can tell is through their voting. These Spanish people here will vote Republican in a heartbeat. And then who they kicking out the country? Them same motherfuckers. Them same ones who voted for Republicans are the same ones that's being hemmed up by Republicans. And now they crying. So you make a valid point. But in order for us to turn that point, we have to establish a power base. Because in Atlanta, because there is a Black power base, I've seen, even though they will separate themselves, and what parts of town, these are where the Somalis live, and they do their thing. These is where the Kenyans live, the Nigerians live. I don't know what part of the city you're in, and this is where you drive up Buford Highway. Just take a drive up Buford Highway. And you see how it changes. It goes from Spanish.
Yeah.
But pay attention. It turns to Vietnamese. It turns to Korean. It turns back to Spanish, and then it turns back to Chinese. And then it turns to Chinese. Then it turns to Korean again. Right? They isolate themselves. And people are going to do that because when I lived in Germany, Americans isolated themselves as expats. People have a tendency to do that. You go down to Colombia, and Americans are isolating themselves in Colombia. in whatever city they're in. So we do the same thing. It's that same commonality that brings about the unity. But we have to create a stronger Black power base in this country in order for these people to recognize I can join this group because I'm safe in this group. And we just did not do that since the 65 integration Civil Rights Act. We just haven't done it.
Or haven't done it. But here's the thing: it's not that we haven't done it. It's just that, okay, like I bring this example to you. If the government would do what they do for the undocumented people who come, like if we would have went forward with what Dr. King was talking about, the Homestead Acts, right, where he was assassinated, talk about economic inclusion. See, the difference is, though, I don't think it's a fair statement to say that we didn't do it. No, we just weren't allowed to the certain degree. And that's why immigration was used, because immigration was used to be able to foreshadow that. See, a white person, if you just make everything about skin color and you don't disaggregate, like we'll never do that with Hiroshima, right? We didn't say when we bombed Japan, oh, all Asians or anyone who's Mongolian get the reparation. No, 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 no. We specifically talk about those who were from Hiroshima. Same thing with the Ashkenazi Jews. Same thing. We don't just blanket a whole phenotype of people based off of one particular niche. No, we don't do that. What had happened was is that when we opened up immigration, white supremacists on the left and the right use that because yes, if you bring in the person who comes from another country that you didn't do generational harm and give accrued disadvantages, and that's another thing. No one else in this country besides Black Americans didn't pay the cost. So it's not that we didn't, I give you pushback on that. We just didn't do it because we're fucking lazy. No, you had everything in government.
I'm with you.
Pulling you out because that's the reason why there's a mass immigration before before the last 215. This is why you don't see Black Americans immigrating in mass to these other peoples of country because they did not. I mean, you talk about what people did not do. Okay, we fought. Wait, IG.
I will not give you any pushback on that. I agree with you that in the 60s and 70s and 80s
and 90s, right? While they were mass immigrating people and giving them grants, yes.
Yeah, I agree with you. The way that integration had worked, it worked perfectly to depower Black Americans. I agree 100%.
So and that's what I'm saying.
What I'm saying is over these last like 20 years, when we do have the ability to do it, and because we can't do anything about the past, we should do it now.
But it's too. Let me tell you why it's more difficult now. It's more difficult now because now you have people who've been here who immigrated underneath the guys. That's why I don't do flat blackness. I don't believe in flat blackness. It doesn't exist. Okay? So, but this is now why it's more difficult because you got people like, and no offense, like President Obama. We got him as our first Black president. President Obama is half Kenyan, East African, and Jewish. There is no descendant. He is not anchored in culture or lineage. That's why Obama didn't do most for quote unquote Black folks because the white supremacy and the color of code laws, when you come here to the States, will just allow anyone. See, they protected whiteness with the one drop rule and just made blackness for anything that's not white. That was done intentionally because now that you have people who are here 20 years in this time, because we don't disaggregate that, we just see everyone as flat blackness, anything that has white skin, and that's the problem. Because you have people who are coming in with their own interests, which we have the 20 years. If you want to talk about the last 20 years, we can show that how POCs of color from other countries only band together with other immigrants. Matter of fact, you in San Antonio, partner, if you ever go to a Chinese or Asian restaurant, what you're going to see Asians working with the Hispanics and the other immigrants. You ain't even going to see one Black person even busting the dishes in a Chinese restaurant or buffet. And the reason why is because when you go to other places like New York, you're going to see that these people, I'm not saying they're all the enemy now, But you can't expect us to be like, well, we should be able to pick up the pieces. Well, no, the people that's getting in our way from those things are other black people that are not black Americans.
I
If you
get what
look at in our you look in our government, who sits in the Senate, who sits on the board, the judicial board, all of the people of color that are first this and that are not black American. So you got people who are sitting in the places. It's too late now because we didn't flood the
mm,
gates and just willy-nilly let
no,
everyone
no.
open.
I'm
It's
a
I think it's to a certain
I'm a
degree it's too late. I think
I'm
to
a
a certain degree it's too late.
I'm gonna push back on the too late part. Is it more? Is it difficult? Yes, but the too late part is never too late. That would be like saying the American Revolution was too late, the French Revolution was too late, the Haitian Revolution was too late. It's never too late. It's just it's what's relative is the leadership. Who does it? You're right. It's not going to be somebody who is fighting within the system. You're not going to change it within the system. As much as I appreciate Jasmine Crockett for standing, 10 toes down on a lot of issues, it's not going to come from that. Just like every revolution, every major change in any society, it always started outside of the government. I ain't gonna say it started, but it was pushed more heavily outside of the government. So it would have to be a grassroots movement that changes the mentality of everything. So
I'm part of
it's
a
difficult, but
grassroots
not too late. And I know I'm an optimistic person. So it's hard. It's not easy, but it can be done.
It can be, and I can tell you that, and even though I'm part, and I'm not just speaking from emotionalism, I am part of a grassroots organization called ADOS. And if you want to look up Yvette Carnett Antonio Moore, and I can show you data, and we got to get more information so I can show you certain stuff and stuff like that. I can tell you for the last 10 years, I can show you, as a matter of fact, that that grassroots that yes, it's for Black American reparations. We have a progressive Black agenda for everyone that wants to be included. But I can tell you that everyone who has been blocking stuff, that has been blocking us, that has been keeping us like on the political side, we can't even get a shot at YT supremacy because they got their immigrant dogs who stand with our skin, who don't stand with our lineage, our history, who do not, like you said, to prove your point, they don't come here to be part of the enemy. So then what makes you think just because of some silly shit like melanin and kinky hair that they're gonna come here and identify with us authentically? That
Oh,
proves my point. They're gonna come here, they're gonna come here and so that's why you can't have it both ways. That's why you can't have that both ways. You can't say that on one hand, oh, they're these poor immigrants and these people who come here for a better disadvantage. But when you do come here, you're come here to be part of the elitism and the side and proximity to power. But then the dangerous part is the chessboard lets you get to say that you're me. See, that's why we can't do this both ways. If the people who have immigrated here the last 30, 40, 50 years, because we as Black Americans have been accepting of it and everyone, if these people who have immigrated here truly were part of Blackness and Africanness, which they're not because they're not connected to lineage, then yes, we would have a different situation. But because these people came here and acquiesced it and didn't care or manage to know the history of why they're able to be here because of the American descent of slavery, we have what we have now. It's no burden of proof. We can only do so much when we're the ones who made it possible. You see what I'm saying?
I understand, but I understand that you're also looking at it to me, you're looking at it from the wrong lens. When you look at the civil rights movement, the overwhelming majority of Black Americans did not agree with the civil rights movement when it first started.
Correct.
It first started. Every movement starts out with a very low percentage of the people in agreement with that movement. It's called the law of integration of wait a minute. The law of diffusion of something. It's called the law of diffusion of something. But basically, it starts with the first 1%, then 5%, and it doesn't become a movement until you get that tipping point of 15 to 18%. Once you get 15 to 18% of the people involved, then you start to get the mass numbers of 36% and then another 36%. And you're always going to have 16% that don't agree at all. So like my pappy refused to march with Dr. King. not because he thought Dr. King was a troublemaker, as many other pastors and Black people thought in Georgia at that time frame. He refused to march with him because he served in Korea, and he was like, if they sick a dog on me, I'm shooting a dog. If they shoot at me, I'm shooting at them. So he was more apt for Black Panthers than he was for Dr. King's movement. But Dr. King's movement, when it was just in Atlanta, it was small, nobody paid attention. But as it grew, then people came on board. People come on board when they see that it's safe to come on board, when the mass have. Most people are sheep. So looking at the past and looking at the immigrants who've come for the last 40, 50 years, you got to put them in that 16. Most of them are going to be in that 16%. They're never going to join. The movement has to grow to hit that tipping point. Once it hits that tipping point, the newer people who immigrate, and some of the ones who have, they will then join in, but they ain't joining in until it hits that 15 to 18%. They're not joining in until then. It has to appear to be safe before they jump in. So so some of them will be a part of that 36%. So I wouldn't even look for them to join, wouldn't even look for them to be in support ever. But you have to grab the ones who are, and then keep the movement going and get it strong enough to hit that tipping point. That is how any product becomes a top-selling product. That is how any movement becomes a true movement. So, but when you put that impossibility on it, then your movement is dead. It's dead in the water.
I shouldn't say impossibility, but just, and maybe that's me experiencing Black fatigue. You see what I'm saying? Because it's like when you see, when you see, and when I say Black fatigue, and I get it, I'm not just saying it just based off of no melanin. No, it's the people that are masquerading, and this has always been a problem with us with the Democratic Party. See, it's harder for Black folks to see our enemies when you have people who are your skin, and yes, who get to say that they are Black. You know, one thing that what kind of kills me is that the census in this country does recognize people's ethnicities. That I'm not saying that these people can't come here and be American. That's not what I'm saying. Because there's a way for you to identify as being Haitian American, Nigerian American. The reason why I bring that up, because there's a pick and choose when they decide to be Black. See, when they're around us in the hood, and as this determines how they vote. I'm not just talking about culture. This determines how they vote, what they lobby for, what they believe in politically. If you pick and choose when you're around us to ingratiate in our culture, but when you're around white people and white people of color, you make sure to revert back to nationality. Oh, I'm not Black, I'm Haitian. I'm not such and such and such. And because you are trying to acquiesce to power socially, you are going to vote against something that is against my interest and maybe yours. And the only reason why I say maybe, because other people, unlike Black Americans, even if they come from another European country, they are not taught that, oh, it's just the skin folk. No, a Nigerian could look at Cameroonian by regalia and tell you are not my people. Not saying they're going to be against them. We are at a disadvantage because our history and how we've been brought up, we think that everyone thinks like a Black American if they look like a Black American. And the other people of color know that we do not. Okay. And that's where I'm saying it's not to be necessarily always divisive, because everyone else already comes here with that divisiveness, with that pick and choosing. So it doesn't do us good now. What I would say is that, yeah, there are like-minded. We do have people, and just for something I want to address, we are not FBA. FBA is a political, we are a C1, C4 organization. We're actually an organization. FBA is something that is stemmed off upon someone who was part of the movement before we was an organization. We're actually doing political grassroots. If you look at ADOS.com and .org and stuff like that. So no, we're not FBA. I never once said I was a foundational Black American. I specifically used the term American descendant of slavery to differentiate.
Okay, so I'm gonna say this one more again.
And I'm gonna let you go because we're gonna disagree. We're gonna disagree.
Well, even though you letting me go, I'm gonna go ahead and kick you from the studio, but you're gonna hear what I'm gonna say.
I'm,
So stay your ass on here.
I'm listening. I'm listening.
All right. Now, it doesn't matter about what they vote for. It doesn't matter how their mentality is when they come here. You cannot care about that. If I was the leader of your organization, good leadership says that I will first show you that I care about you, because I know that I need to show you that I care about you before you will ever show that you care about me. That's good leadership. That's what my grandfather taught me, and that's what I also learned in the Marine Corps. That to be a good leader, I have to show that I care about my troops, regardless of how they may feel about me. And then once I've shown them, and each person has their own tipping point, then they start to care about what my vision is, because it becomes a subconscious sense of loyalty that they then will demonstrate. So if you're harboring on what those people are not doing and how they think, and then you never reach out to show them that you are for them, they're never going to give a shit about you. So you have to first show that you give a shit about them. That's how you create a movement. You got to stick out your neck first before they join you in sticking their necks out. That's how I would do it. Joseph, hold on. I got a couple people who signed on before you did. Paul.
How's it going, man? Hey, good to see that you're still around, still kicking. Definitely good to think about you when I be going on TikTok. Glad to see you doing well, man.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. I try.
So real quick, I just wanted to go say, I am Nigerian. I was born here. My folks immigrated here when they were in their late teens, early 20s. And this is kind of like pushback from the initial speaker. I think that if you get off the internet, the diaspora wars are not as strong in real life. And I think it also depends on where you live. I think, a Black American and a Nigerian person in Brooklyn are going to have a lot more in common than if they're in a spot like, Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Right.
And I guess what I'm trying to go say is that, pushing back on the previous speaker, I think that, I'm only going to speak for Nigerians and West Africans. I don't want to speak for other immigrant groups. I think that there is some revisionist history on hearing from the stories that I've heard from my folks. A lot of them weren't treated necessarily that well by Black Americans when they first came here, kind of just from the same thing that the previous speaker, mentioned. And the idea was you come in here and you're taking our jobs. You're another, you're more competition. I think that is kind of one of the things where you had mentioned about being a good leader. If you're coming from another country, and this isn't to condone, or because I will admit that there are Africans that do look down on Black Americans, but I think that if you're coming to this country and you see people that, your culture might be different, but they look like you, and instead of being, welcome with open arms, the first thought is oh, you're taking our jobs, they're making fun of your culture. There's been a huge shift in the United States of people embracing African culture. And, I think a lot of it has to actually do with the rise of Afro beats and how it's become really popular. It wasn't that cool to be African in the United States, not that long. And I remember, I'm speaking from personal experience. I remember when my parents would they'd send me to school with traditional food. It was not it wasn't a fun time. I won't bring up, all elementary school stuff, but it wasn't a fun time. And even, from Black Americans, they'd be clicking and making jokes and everything like that. I think that's one thing that kind of gets lost. There's been a shift over the last decade and a half in terms of how, I won't even just say Black Americans, I'll just say Americans in general look at Africans. But I think that it is kind of, I think I will say in the previous speaker's defense, I think that a lot of Africans do tend to kind of keep to themselves,
Yeah.
or only associate with other Africans. 100% agree with that. 100% agree. I think that there are, reasons why they do it that I agree with, and I think there's also some reasons that I disagree with. I will say, and I'm in my early 30s, so I'm
Okay.
only going to go talk about my range and everything like that. To my peers, the people in their 20s, 30s, and 40s do not, by and large, do not harbor a lot of the same negative thoughts that people in my parents' age range might have had about Black Americans. I think that a lot of this discourse is really only online, where you see it be like heavy anti, me personally. I mean, hey man, I've been on your lives before. I have no issue with you. I live in it used to be a Black city. Now it's gentrified. I live in a gentrified city that has great historical relevance towards Black culture, and I'm heavily influenced by like Black media, specifically Black American media. I just don't really know if it's fair to just sit on here and say, hey, the Africans are the problem. I just don't really agree with what the previous speaker said. I think that there's way more. So now, one thing I will say, and this kind of tying it into your talk, the issue with a lot of Africans is that they tend to be very conservative.
Mm-hmm.
And I say this growing up in an extremely conservative, when I was growing up, there wasn't, at least in my family, we didn't hear about right wing, left wing. I just think that a lot of it comes down to, it's not an immigrant thing, it's a religion thing. You come from my folks were a step below Westboro Baptist in terms of how conservative, I grew up. I think when you look at it from that perspective, that's a lot of the reason why, when it comes to certain things that set out, it's also because of religion. Is that I think that plays a major role. Well, and you see it with Black Americans too. The most conservative Black folks be voting Republican as well.
Yeah. Now, I'm glad you told me what your age was, because I was going to ask you that question. A lot of this comes from the misinformation, miseducation of Black people around the world and people around the world. So I grew up, I'm 54, so I'm only 20 plus, 30 plus. Well, you said you're 30 something, so I'm 20 plus years old.
I'm mostly 30.
All right. So I grew up where the education towards Black people in America was everything about Africa was negative. And every African was negative. They were running around with bones in their noses, even down to the cartoons that they showed us on TV show Africans in this more savage state. And the top dog African was Tarzan, right? No, they're serious. They're serious. If you would have grew up, there is not one Gen X that most Gen Xers, I ain't gonna say not one, most Gen Xers grew up with that mentality. And I thought that way. I used to walk around a good way to joke on another Black person. We call it Joning. We Joan on somebody. Was to call them an African booty scratcher.
Yep. Yeah,
right.
It's literally stuff I was called in elementary school.
So we were taught that there was nothing good about Africa and that your history started in slavery and that they were running around doing the most heinous things. Then what started to change my perspective on that was when I was able to travel to other countries. And of course, and reading as well. Reading books, by Alex Haley, people like that, ISIS Papers, all these other different books. But actually going to these other countries, one of the first things I recognized is that Europeans were misinformed about Black people. They thought that a lot of Europeans thought that every Black person was shooting and killing and raping and murdering, because that's all the Black news that they had. The only good Black person that they knew about was Bill Cosby, because they only got the Cosby Show. So they thought Bill Cosby is the exception. Every other Black person is exactly what the American media has told us about Black people. So when I first started going to some of these countries, they had a negative thought process on Black people. And then when I first went to some African countries, they had a negative thought process on that, on Black people. Now, as we moved into the 2000s, which that was then start to incorporate your generation, you started seeing the real Africa. Africans started seeing the real Black Americans. So the older Africans still had that mindset, and the older Black Americans still had that mindset of negativity, but the younger generation was starting to see like, well, no, it's a little bit different, right? It's not the same. And when I moved to Germany, because so many Black people had been living in Germany, their mentality towards Black people in the cities were much different. In the country, they were just curious as hell. But also African immigration into Europe also had been changing their perspective on Black people and Africans. In America, it still was different because of the isolation that people would choose. Like living in Atlanta, Nigerians, most of them were over there in this area called DeKalb County, in one particular area of DeKalb County, and they stayed to themselves. It is only expanding outside of that community that people start seeing a difference. But this is mostly the younger generation. The Gen Z and millennials are the ones who see it differently, which is why if I was leading a organization, I wouldn't go after Gen Xers. Fuck them, even though they got more money. And I wouldn't go after them. I would go after the Gen Z and millennials and whatever the next generation is, because those are the ones who, and you're right, most people don't realize how much Afro beats changed the mentality of Black people in America towards Africans. Music.
100% agree with. I firmly believe that. I mean, and you've even seen it where I've seen artists that I did not think would work with Afrobeat artists, whether it is a, you know, Chris Brown has damn near been adopted by Nigeria. You got people like Bruno Mars that's been doing Afrobeat. You even got Ed Sheeran, the white ginger, making Afrobeat songs with different, and so it's things like that.
You know who you got to give most of that credit to, though, right?
You're talking about Davido and Wizkid?
But who brought him?
For who?
For Black Americans. It was Rick Ross.
Really?
Rick Ross is the one who made Afrobeats international, because it was he who brought people like Davido into the mainstream. And, you know, he worked with Akon as well, but it was Rick Ross who brought it to the mainstream. So, and most people don't know that, but a lot of the Nigerian artists, Rick Ross saw, well, one, they got a big ass population, so there's a lot of money to be made there. And then he saw that he can bring this to a larger stage. He then incorporated Akon into his process, and that is what moved the needle for Afrobeats, for Nigerian music.
Interesting.
Now, like I said before, this is why, because of that misteaching, that miseducation, I would not focus on Gen X and baby boomers. I would focus on the younger generation, because those are the ones who did not grow up watching Bugs Bunny cartoons where Africans were portrayed in a negative light. You know, so they have less to deconstruct from that time, from their mindset of what they were taught.
And I've noticed it being like a reoccurring thing where most of the, I don't want to say most actually, a decent amount of the women that I've dated are also Black American. It's not just like, you know, West Africans. And my experience with dating them, or at least let me rephrase it, my experience with their parents when it's come to Nigerian culture it's always 50-50. It is either what you mentioned about like, hey, is your family back home? Do they live in huts? Like, you know, do they even have electricity? Do they even have what? I've been asked questions like that. And on other hands, I've had them look at it like, you know, I got family that lives in the UK. I'm not over there asking them, hey, like, you know, are you meeting with the queen for biscuits and crumpets every day? Like, you know, that's this. We just look at it like, hey, it's different cultures. We're going to assume there's a lot of parts of Nigeria that have, you know, there's a lot of issues with Nigeria. Don't get me wrong. But to go sit here and act like, oh, it's just some giant, like, you know, shithole or whatever like that, that's just not True. There's great parts. There's not so great parts. I think that the major issue with Nigeria is that it is very pay to play for everything. In a lot of aspects, the United States is the same way. But I think that that's one of the things is that Nigeria is a great country to live if you are in the forget about 1%, but the 0.01%. If you are in the 0.10%, Nigeria is an amazing country.
Yeah.
If you're not,
yeah, I experienced that firsthand.
You know what I mean? Then it becomes very difficult. And so that's all I have to go say. I'm not over here looking at like. And for what it's worth, a lot of Nigerian men are with a lot of Black American women. A lot of Nigerian women are with Black American men. I think that on Twitter, on TikTok, on whatever social media platform, I think the diaspora wars is way bigger on social media than it is in real life. That's been my experience, at least.
It definitely is, and I had the I had the fortunate observation of my own family. So one of my nephews is married to a woman from Zambia. And when they had their, what were we doing? Oh, we had their engagement party, right? And it was Zambian style. My mother, aunts, the older generation, and some of my older cousins and whatnot, you can see they turned their nose up. They didn't mind the dancing. They didn't mind the music. But some of the food, they turned their nose up.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Wasn't willing to try much of anything, and that irritated me. I told my mom and my aunts now, y'all are being disrespectful as hell.
For African food is expensive to cater for a wedding. Wildly expensive.
Mm-hmm. And so I saw that. Now the younger generation, they were willing to try they had like fried worms.
Okay.
And they were willing to try it. Tried some of those things. I tried some of it. But I noticed that some of the older ones, they weren't willing to try stuff because of the American mentality. We don't eat that.
This is what I have to go say about the when it comes to the African American, I want to try different food. But eating things like pork chitlins, doing things like so to a certain degree, I look at it not even just a difference between Black American and like African, but every culture, every single culture, even just here in the States.
Mm-hmm.
When I've been out to Texas, gone out to Papa Do's, gotten some fried alligator, we don't have stuff like that over here. I'm a Cali boy. We don't have stuff like that over here, and so there's some people here that would look at that and be like, hey,
yeah,
that's different. But I guess the way I'm looking at it is that to go sit here and to go demonize all people that live in Texas and think that their culture is backwards because they have fried alligator, that's crazy.
But people do.
Where I'm at. I don't know what that previous speaker, I don't know what their interaction has been with, and it seems like, what that, I don't know if they're still here, and I'm not trying to go tell them, but it kind of sounded like they were coming from a place of hurt, like maybe they had some not so great experiences, or maybe they had just experienced.
I would say is for, he's still on YouTube. I would say that it's fatigue.
Okay.
And he's older than you, I think. So it's that fatigue of we've grown up with the separation. We've grown up with the discontent between the groups. So it's hard to change it, which is why I was saying we can't look at the past. We have to re-educate ourselves into the current format and then work with those who are willing to be worked with. Otherwise, everything's going to stop dead if everybody's holding on to what used to be. The education and knowledge base is not the same as it was in the 80s. We didn't have the internet to be able to see that Africans had they had some of the same major cities that we have. Not just what National Geographic showed us as far as starving children and people in huts and shit and, all that sort of thing, which they made it seem like it was ass backwards when actually they were more in tune with the earth and nature. So it's that's why we have to re-educate. That's why we have to. I do see a lot of. I think social media is useful because I see people who are showing what Africa really is like, who are showing what Black Americans are really like. So I think that social media is doing a great thing in doing that. That's why I follow this guy named Wode. Wode does a great job of showing the real Africa, you know, whereas many don't. And then this guy, he has a page called Black to Africa. He does a great job of showing what Africa is really like and how Black Americans should be able to connect with Africans instead of having this separation, because we were taught to be separate from Africans. And the thing about whether a person believes, what your belief is, when it comes to your education, your economics, and your safety, I don't care what you believe. That we all should be able to come to an agreement on that. And if I was doing an organization, I wouldn't force everybody to be atheist. I wouldn't force everybody to be Christian, which is a hard thing to do, because Christians don't want to deal with other organizations unless it's Christian based. A lot of them. I'm gonna say a lot of them. There are others who don't give a shit because they recognize this is about economics, this is about safety, and this is about education. If the focus stays there and gaining political power in order to facilitate those three things, then the organization will have life in it. The moment you make it about a religion, the moment you make it about a culture, you've destroyed the organization. So, yeah.
No, I definitely hear that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I've been on here for a minute.
Yeah.
I want to go give someone another opportunity to go speak.
Your 20 minutes is over.
Hey, always a pleasure to go hear from you. Glad you. Oh, did you end up making it? You had mentioned that you were dropping your daughter off for college out over here. Did you end up doing that already, or is that?
Where?
It wasn't in the Bay Area. I think you're going to be going down to Southern California, if I wasn't mistaken.
Oh, that was just a road trip, man.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Oh, one of my daughters was looking at moving to LA. But
that's what it was.
But it all fell through. She was falling victim to a hoax. And so I figured out that it was a hoax, and so it never happened.
I'm sorry to hear about that.
No, it was a great learning experience for her to be more not to because she's overly optimistic like I am.
Okay.
So it was a great learning experience for her to investigate things before you go full head of steam into it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's a good learning moment, and I think first time I ever got scammed, I was 17. I don't know if you know what a green dot scam is. It's when they someone reaches out, the money flip, they tell you, hey, I have, if you send me $200, I can turn it into like 4,000. I know some strings at the bank. And I was 17. This is still during the great financial crisis. Things are real rough at home. And I had a little job, wasn't making much, that I was doing while I was in school. And some guy told me, hey, send me 200 and I could do it. And I'll just put it this way, I didn't get shit.
Now, I haven't heard of that one, so I'm good on that one.
Hey, brother, always a pleasure. You take it easy.
Appreciate you. Take it easy.
Yeah.
Oh, shit. I'm hitting all kind of wrong things here. I was hitting him to disconnect, and the damn thing changed on me. I got one more person before you, Yusuf, if they still on here. Joseph. So hold on. Nope, they're not on here anymore. So we got Yosef, and then after Yosef, we're going back to TikTok. To who's next on TikTok? Constantine. So Yosef, then Constantine. Yosef. Yosef.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir. Welcome back to the show.
Oh, thank you for having me. I've just been passively and curiously listening to the last few guests. and their thoughts and perspectives on the topic. Right?
Right.
People choose their indoctrinated religion and politics over their lying eyes. I think that's a tricky one because it's the people often who think that they're enlightened or that their eyes are open who think that other people are blind.
Right.
So those are typically the ones who are blind. And the more steep they are in whatever religion or faith they believe in, or politics that they adhere to, usually they can be one and the same. Then they're probably much more likely to be prone to be deceived. Or if they see something that's right in front of them, they're less likely to give it as much weight as if they support that particular political organization or religious dogma that they personally believe in. So I think, what is that? Cognitive bias? I think is the correct term for that.
Confirmation bias.
Confirmation bias, yes.
Right.
We're all
Confirmation bias is
susceptible.
when the confirmation is bias is when you seek out certain things just to confirm what you already believe. Cognitive dissonance is when you ignore information in order to support in order to maintain what you believe. So you might be saying cognitive dissonance is the one that you're looking for.
Both, actually.
Well, I mean, they both work hand in hand.
Yeah. They just work a little differently from each other.
Right.
Confirmation bias, they're saying what they want to see, and cognitive dissonance is not believing or seeing what they should be seeing or what's right in front of their face,
Right.
essentially.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's dangerous. And it actually takes a lot more effort. Well, because humans, we like comfort. So we like things that are just the same. We like patterns, and anything that breaks that pattern makes us antsy. So to intentionally go out of your way to look for a pattern disruption, which is something I personally like to do, even things that I hold strongly and I believe this to be true, I don't like looking to or listening to or seeking out information that confirms what I already have a strong bias towards. I like to look at the total opposite on purpose.
Right.
To almost kind of like, is there anything on this side that would disprove what I already believe strongly to prevent myself from having that cognitive dissonance or confirmation bias? I don't think most people don't go through that process. It's very uncomfortable, even when I do it. But I've done it so much that I'm used to it. But to expect 95% of the population of the Christians or the Muslims or conservatives or liberals to go through that process of, okay, these are my favorite talking heads. Now let me listen to these other people who I think is crazy, but what if they're not crazy? That takes a lot more effort because now you're being challenged directly. It's almost like telling people how to eat. When you're talking about religious or religion or politics, you're ripping a part of their identity out, and so it's going to be difficult for them to look at that video that you showed of that man being obviously being taken out unjustly due to ICE, which that was the first time I saw that. I've heard about it, but that was the first time I saw video of footage of that. And just that 30-second clip, it was clear to me that he was trying to look after the lady that was being rough handled by the ICE agent. And he got caught in the crossfire due to their improper, I don't think they have any training, to be honest. It seems like they're just recruiting these people into be ICE agents because where they're getting all this sudden number or this influx number of agents out of nowhere. You can't possibly have enough time to train these people like you would perhaps like an officer or someone with a military background like yourself. So it seems like they're grabbing a lot of people who have a desire to play cops and robbers. Like,
Right.
just grab anyone we need because we need as many hands as we can get. Here, you get a gun, you get a gun, you get a gun like Oprah. You get a weapon, you get a weapon. And that's clearly it's not good. It's obviously not good. It's not good for optics. It's you don't have a bad criminal record. Okay, we'll just take you off the street. Oh, you have a sense of justice. You're a 4-hour administration. Okay, then you get a badge too. And that's clearly not working out too well. for them. So I guess that's kind of like my statement for now, and I'm open to hearing what you have to say on my thoughts.
No, I agree with you. I actually can't think of anything that you said that I disagree with, because I mean, that is just the totality of the situation. In order to change a person's mindset, that is very, very difficult to do so. You have to show them way more information, or something just has to be like dead right. And it has to be even beyond this. So let me rephrase that. To change a person's mindset, you got to hit them where they hurt. If you don't hit them where they hurt, they're not going to change their mindset. So a lot of these people, they went straight to once the first government officials started making their comments about what happened, it became irrelevant to what their eyes saw in that video. They only saw what that agent had told them when the first thing happened, before they even seen anything. Then once they see it, they start to only see what that agent had told them. This is why they had to get out first and say that, oh, he's a domestic terrorist, he attacked those officers, and so on and so forth. That man never attacked those officers at no point whatsoever. He tried to defend himself when they ganged up on him and was beating him with a pistol. And I don't know anybody who's getting beat with a pistol with 6, 7 other people on top of them is going to just lie there and take it, right? You clearly saw them take his gun and then run away. And at the same time, the other officer pulls his gun and shoots at him. That doesn't matter, because these people are poorly trained. It's like I said in my video, if you were trained either in the military or in the police force, you never say, if you're taking someone's weapon, this phraseology is weapon secured, not gun, he has a gun.
Right.
He has a gun translates to most people's mind as he has a gun in his hand and he's ready to shoot the gun, right? So ill-trained people will just scream out, he has a gun. And we don't know if somebody said that. That was my thought process on that part. You don't hear anything about gun until the first dude starts shooting at him, right? That's when you hear gun. And then after the man is laying on the ground, you hear gun. But before that, you don't hear it. So poorly trained operatives will make those types of mistakes. And those mistakes ended up in this situation with a man's life being taken. It's hard to change these people's mind on that. It would have to be their own talking heads would have to finally give in to the reality that this man was murdered before they would start to think otherwise, because they're not going to go and listen to anybody else who's saying the opposite, because they just don't have that mindset. They need that confirmation bias so that they can support their cognitive dissonance in these types of situations. So it's a hard road to go, and you're never going to convince most of them, which is why I don't worry about trying to convince most of them. On my regular Facebook page, my personal one, when people have been arguing about this situation, some of the hard-coded people, I don't even bother with them. The only time I say something to them is when they say something that's just completely outlandish, or they bring in commentary that has nothing to do with the situation. So, and like Sync just said, 555 just said, they offered these people all kinds of money that these people have never seen before. $50,000 signing bonus. They're giving a $40,000 bonus this year is what they're trying to give these people. A lot of these poor people who've taken up this cause will join in simply because of the money. And then they will use their confirmation bias and their cognitive dissonance to support their actions, because it's their true God, the money, is the thing that's making them join into this situation. So I agree with you. It's a hard road to hoe. When we're not going to change most of their minds. But what we can do is formulate our own base, our own power structure to defend against this bullshit. because that's the only way you win, or at least come to a level of people can be held accountable for their actions. So that's about
It's a
all I
long
have.
power structure. So you're
Mhm.
talking about like our, as far as talking about like Americans in general, or Black Americans specifically?
I'm talking Americans in general. Americans in general. In this situation, just as I'm an independent politically, in these types of situations, I'm also in. It's not about me being an atheist. It's about I'm independent of that. I don't give a damn if you're Christian, Muslim, whatever. This is about safety, education, economics, and I'm gonna say your rights under this government. That man had a right to have his gun. It
Mhm.
shouldn't be a rule that you can't carry a gun at a political event, because those same people who cry that, oh, he shouldn't have had a gun at a political event, they didn't have shit to say when them Proud Boys and everybody else showed up at January 16th or any other thing, any other event. As you can see it on my screen. Let me put it up for
Yeah.
TikTok. These people showed up. They showed up with their guns. Nobody had anything to say about them showing up with their guns. So, and said that they had a right to be there with their guns. So how are you going to tell this man that he didn't have a right to show up with his legal weapon, and then you create a false narrative that he was trying to disrupt the ICE agents and what they were doing, that he attacked the ICE people, because what the Bovino guy was saying, that the ICE agents are the victim. The ICE agents are not the victim here. They pushed the shit out of him. They pushed a woman into him. They pushed another woman down. He went to go help that woman get up, and they sprayed them with, some type of irritant. And then they snatched him. When did he start anything? He started nothing. He was utilizing his right to watch and record, his media right to watch and record what these ICE agents were doing, and they attacked him for it, as they have attacked many people who were just videotaping them. Because just like they're wearing this mask to conceal who they are, they want to conceal from the public exactly everything that they're actually doing. They don't want the public to know how they're dragging people out of their cars and dragging people into the streets and treating American citizens any way they want to treat them. So, somebody said that what I put up was Antifa. Doesn't matter if it's Antifa, Proud Boys, I don't give a shit who it is. The fact that they supported those guys when they had their guns in protest. I think that was a protest against BLM at the time frame. But you can't support people having guns at protest and then demonize somebody for having a gun at a protest. That's hypocritical.
Sure.
But that alignment comes because of which political party they support.
Well, personally, I believe, even if I don't believe in a particular political stance one side has, or in this case, it would be mostly liberals, the majority liberals, even I would stand for their First Amendment right to free speech, their right to record government officials, to kind of have like a somewhat of a check and balances system going there, or at least a public view of things, and also the right to bear arms, especially at events like this, particularly for that reason, right? Being targeted and having these people having a trigger finger because of what they perceive something to happen. Me having a weapon on me does not indicate that I'm a threat. And if he was truly a threat, he could have taken it out long before they even realized it. So if he was going to use it, he would have probably used it when he was already on the floor. But he chose restraint. Because he could have done it. So it took them a while to realize he had a weapon. But if he wanted to defend himself, in my opinion, even rightfully, against those aggressive officers, he could have done so, but he chose not to. It would have been a shootout then at that point, and then probably would have been a lot more lives lost for sure. But I guess that's my 2 cents about that. Unfortunately, that's just the way it is. And this is coming from someone who actually voted for this administration, preferring, just thinking logically, which going to the future, what would be better off? Would it be a Kamala administration or a Trump administration? Some
Right.
people say you're picking between the lesser of two evils. I didn't really see it quite like that, but I knew that the last administration was every single one is different. Some of them are overzealous. In this case, this one, I knew there was a potentiality for that, kind of like an unfinished business. I have a bone to pick. I'm a little sour about the last situation. I felt like I should have won. Okay, he got that kind of angst going on. Then you had the last administration where they just let the floodgates open with a lot of these people coming in, and then you see, at least where I'm from in Detroit, you see the effects of what Biden did, and then you hear about it from a third person's perspective, what's going on, what happened in New York, the over immigration, so much so that you have Texas busing people out there because they got so many people. Well, this is what you want, and you take them. So that kind of situation, that tit for tat, and then you see what happened in Chicago. People who voted for that particular local administration realizing, oh wait, these people are taking care of these immigrants more than us, and this is affecting Black people. So what you have is kind of like, it's weird. You have this pendulum that's overly weighted on one side, and then that weight has been completely taken off with no barrier, no slow rise to the top. Just rip off the weight and then put that same weight on the other side. So you got that ding ding, right? It's boom boom, but there's no balance in terms of how to solve this issue. So it's, in a way, they're overcompensating by trying to fix a problem that was created as a result of letting the floodgates open and having millions of people flood this country. So I personally would argue that their intention is good. Although I know a lot of people on the other side would say, well, they meant evil and harm. I just don't see that being the case. It's just one of those things where overzealous and kind of figured this will probably happen, most likely. You have 300 some million people in the country. There's going to be casualties, fatalities, injustices.
Wait, 300 million? There's only 400 million people in the country.
That's so damn. I'm 100 million. I'm 100 million off. That's a lot of people. And so
No,
to
I'm saying
expect
the
that
total
nothing's
count of Americans is around 400 million, and you're saying
holy
300 million are immigrants?
I said 300. No. In terms of total population in America, I was
Oh,
at
okay.
100 million people. I
Oh,
didn't.
okay.
So
I
my
misunderstood.
numbers are off. That's a massive number of people in this country, and to think that nothing is going to happen at all, like there's not going to be any police doing certain things illegally, going to get someone's rights to. There's not going to be fatalities. There's not going to be incidences. There's always going to be something. Not to say that it shouldn't be checked. It should be, as people are trying to, what happened to that lady, Dupree or whatever, she got hurt, and it's like, okay, that's terrible. Then they're saying this happened like not too long after, maybe a month or two after. That's a problem. But then it's easy to look at that and say, this is what's going on everywhere. It's just not being caught on camera.
Okay, let me ask you a question though.
Okay.
So, shit, I don't know where I have it. I have a graph, and that graph shows that Obama deported like 300 million, Biden deported like 3 million. Obama deported about 3 million. I'm trying to remember it correctly, and Biden deported about 4 million. In Trump's first administration, I think he barely even got close to 1 million that he deported. And the thing about it is that in those three presidents' terms, Democrats deported more people than the Republicans. But in those terms, no one died. No one was assassinated like that. It is only in this, which feels like an angry toddler running around, that in this term, people are being killed. and there's less people being deported than the previous people. So you have to ask the question. It's not about what they're, it's not about how, I mean, it's not about why, it's more about how this being done. This administration, which his first term, I wanted to vote for him, but he kept talking. And so I couldn't vote for him because he started saying stupid shit. This time, did I want Kamala? I didn't, but I sure as hell didn't want him. Right? So I wrote my name in, because even though I know it wasn't really,
Wow.
but I wrote my name. Fuck him. I didn't like neither one of them. Now, people can vote for whoever they choose to vote for. But when we see what they're doing with that term, at some point we have to stand against it and say, okay, I know that, you know, what the Biden administration, what happened, what was going on in Detroit and Chicago wasn't good, but they weren't killing people. They didn't give extremists weapons and authority to go and do what they're doing right now. So even if I had voted for him, at this point, I would be in regret of that vote, because now I'm seeing the evidence of what this term is doing. And, you know, the whole Venezuelan thing, the Greenland thing, the Iranian thing, which is very hypocritical on the Iranian thing. I would have to support getting this person out of office, because if he's done this in the first year, what the hell is going to happen over the next 3 years if we allow him to still maintain his position and maintain his authority? It is likely we could be thrust into another world war because of what this man is doing. So I would have to.
Is that likely?
Yeah.
Compared to what he did?
If we land troops in Greenland, you got the rest of NATO who will not stand by and just let that happen. So, and if we land troops in Iran, we got the rest of OPEC, which will not let that just happen. So, well, I don't think the OPEC will let that happen. So, yeah, I think we'll be thrust into another world war, because Europe is going to support Greenland. They're going to support NATO. They're not going to support America in that fight. And the American military, although superior in weaponry, the boots on the ground is not trained for cold weather. Very few are trained in cold weather. So yeah, I think he will create at minimum a Vietnam type environment. You know, and well, it won't be as harsh. It'll be, the cold will make it harsh. You don't have the jungle, but I think that he's barking up the wrong tree. We don't need Greenland. We already got Russia as a neighbor. It's called Alaska and Russia right there. So what the hell is he talking about? And you don't either, and whether a leader is good or bad, no country has the right to go and kidnap another country's president. You let the people of that country decide if they want to maintain this situation. And it's not like we haven't sent a 3-letter organization into other countries to disrupt their government. We've done that plenty of times. So no, this dude is straight wrong, you know. And really, the problems in a lot of these places, a lot of these cities and states, it's not federal government that's the problem. It's local government. That's the problem. So that's where, and this is one reason why I don't like the fact that, like, Black people and other minorities have a tendency to vote one specific way, because you're going to keep getting what you've been getting if you keep putting the same damn people in office with the same mentality. You know, once people show you who they are, believe them. That's who they are. So not to say that you should have voted differently. Vote how you want to vote. And I understand, because I'm conservative. I'm conservative in my nature, but I'm not going to vote for somebody just because they are on a party that claims to be conservative, because we see what that conservatism has turned into. And I vote based on the Constitution, and the Constitution also says that we have a right to get rid of a government. by whatever means are necessary to get rid of that government. Since they always like to talk about the Constitution, they skip that part. And that man had a right to bear arms. So,
I mean, I guess well, you mentioned quite a few things. Anyone on the outside looking in would, if they heard what you just said, being against going into another country, which I don't think any country, well, we particularly don't want to do it, but there's a number of reasons. I mean, I've had to do some research, even on the Iran situation. It's there in that case, it would appear that they expected American intervention, and that their angst is that they're not getting it soon enough, since they've been protesting, rioting, and they've been mass slaughtered. I mean, I've seen some footage. I can't even bear to see no more of it, but I just take their word for it, coming from the people in that region. And the reason why they even decided to go forth with that uprising is because they don't have the weapons to counteract, as we do here, to at least counteract to some degree the firearm or the firearm power that they have against their people there. So they was willing to put themselves in that situation, being slaughtered. They say hundreds. It looks like, I feel like it might be somewhere in the thousands at this point, on the expectation that the promise that Trump said he was going to come there. So there is kind of like there, like you mentioned earlier, movements don't typically start. It starts with a small number of people, but it takes a while for it to get some traction before other people kind of join in. He wasn't going to go in there without, any motivation other than, we don't want you bombing Israel. But then the people said, well, you don't like our government. And so but will you come and help us? And then Trump has made a promise that I think he should keep, that he's going to come and remove, I guess, the Ayatollah, whatever current government is in place that has been oppressing those people for the last 40 years. And so they, from my understanding, made that move to put themselves in the line of fire, to risk their own lives, which they're doing, to change things, but knowing that there's only so much change that they can do if you don't have any weapons to counteract it. So expecting American intervenence to take place. So they're very slow with it. We'll see what happens. I personally think in that case, it would make sense to intervene. In terms of Greenland, I've done some research on that too, out of curiosity, like, why does he want Greenland so badly? I wasn't entirely sure. So I've had to kind of do some deep dive studying on both sides. Okay, I know this is a liberal, I know this is a conservative. What are they saying from their perspective? And kind of meet somewhere in the middle, that because of the warming climate temperature, which is true to a large extent, because of the positioning of where Greenland is at, the resources that's there. America being an imperialistic country, we got to where we are because of that conquering mentality. You don't become number one by accident. You do it by, well, we are products of that, right? Slavery. You do it, Indians, Native American Indians, kicking people out, bringing people in, having some sort of divide and conquer mentality. You become number one by aggression. And it is my belief that he wants to maintain America's status as number one by holding that what is currently a neutral country, which is Greenland, even if it's at the expense of alienating our NATO friends and allies. I think he's willing to take that risk, but I kind of think he's also pushing the limits to see how far he can go. So he's probably thinking more long term. I want to secure this for the country. And yes, they're going to hate me now for being this aggressive to acquire Greenland, but 10, 20, 30 years from now, they're going to say, thank God, that Trump guy from 30 years ago. So I think he's thinking more of a legacy thing. Like, if I acquire this, like we should have acquired the Panama Canal, then that would be a big win for the country going into the future. It's not going to be seen in the present, but they're going to say, oh, we have access to this. Now we can control who comes and goes between the country. Because right now, that landmass as a block of ice, essentially, the more it melts, the more it creates that, it lessens the barrier between us and the other side of the world, who do have access to weapons and so forth, that could reach American shores. So it's like a preventative measure for future aggression from other countries, particularly Russia and China, but it's also for economic purposes, right? The resources, the oil that's there, that they know is confirmed is there, and wanting access to it. which is also the reason why he got into Venezuela, because of the oil-rich resources. Otherwise, it would not have been on his radar as a country to even go in and, on the surface, we're here to liberate you, which kind of is true. They suffered for a long time, but in reality, what we wanted, it was more like a side effect. You being liberated was a side effect of what we want, which is the oil, which is to make it cheaper for us here in America. It's a very greedy and selfish way of doing things, but it is also at the same time the reason why America is still the #1 currency in the world currently. It's because of these tactics. If we don't do these things, other countries will. They'll take over. China might try to over Russia, Europe. We don't know who. It's that fear of losing that status of as #1. So I
We've
think
been number
that's kind of what's there.
we've been #1 for the last 60 years without having to invade other countries and invade their sovereignty.
That's not true.
Yes, it is. What country have we invaded their sovereignty and taken over in the last 60 years?
Invaded? Well, not we've invaded, but not taken their sovereignty. It would be, I would say Iran, Iraq, that war, secret wars, a lot of political backdealings behind the scenes. So it might not be necessarily weapons out. We're here to shoot, but I would even mention Egypt, Gaddafi situation. It wasn't technically us going there to stop it, but orchestrating the situation to prevent the gold or whatever plan that Gaddafi had to mobilize African countries to compete against the dollar. So it wasn't us weapons out, we're coming to get you, but we're going to use your own people against you, and we're going to kind of sponsor it. We're going to help it along, and it worked. So those are just three things off the top of my head that I can think of.
So Gaddafi was Libya, and Gaddafi would have never achieved the goals that he aspired to achieve. He would have never gotten Africa to unify under him. He had the right idea, but it was completely the wrong person to do so. A country that still participate in the sub-Saharan slave trade was not going to unify Africa. Our going into Iraq was purely to stop this man from the bank heist that he was doing, because he was broke after fighting Iran for 20 plus years. And it was also to secure oil rights. Going into Venezuela, oil rights. Now, you could have mentioned Nicaragua, the secret wars. I'm assuming you're talking about Nicaragua and Panama, right?
Or even Cuba, maybe.
Cuba, the stranglehold that they're looking for Cuba is that Cuba buys most of its oil from Colombia. So if you control the oil from Colombia, then you can control Cuba, a little bit to the left. Now, we haven't seen any aggression on this side of the world other than Russia trying to go to Cuba and put missiles there since the 1960s. China has only invaded Japan, and that was after Japan had invaded them, and that was back in the 1930s. And only other place that China has ever invaded since then is Taiwan. And Russia, the only place they've invaded since World War II has been Ukraine. Neither one of those governments has shown any aggression towards Greenland, or even the plans of aggression towards Greenland. Russia is more concerned about their former bloc countries, and China is more concerned about other Asian countries. There's actually no evidence that anybody was talking about Greenland, right? So this is
one president. That actually there is. That was Herbert. No, not Hoover. Eisenhower or Hoover. I think it was one of the two. They mentioned it. They offered the equivalent, I think, of about $1 billion worth of gold to Greenland, to the Greenland people. They declined it. This was shortly after World War II or something like that. So I know Trump brings that up a lot in terms of why he's going for it, because like I said earlier, we didn't get Panama Canal. We had it. We let it slip through our hands. We should have maintained control of it. Now they're saying they're trying to get damage control because of the issues that is happening over there, controlling that port of entry with the ships and everything, China getting involved. So they see that as an example. And I'm just thinking from their point of view, they see this is the result of us not having had control of Panama Canal when we foolishly gave it up. Now we're having to do damage control to prevent that similar situation from happening again. Let's just take Greenland and let's see if we can just kind of make a play for that as aggressive as we possibly can. And make a deal if we can financially with the people. I don't think they're going to give it up financially. I don't think there's enough money to. So I don't know what he's going to do to try to take that.
So you're talking about Truman offered Greenland money to try to buy Greenland, right? But he just offered money, and when they said no, he went on about his business and just continued to cultivate the relationship between Denmark and Greenland, so that. And which was the formation of NATO. So we don't have there's no reason to attack them aggressively. And we can peer down the history. Well, we can try to peer into the future, but if we peered into the future, then America becomes an imperialistic nation. That means we take Mexico, we take the entire and we take Canada so that we control all of North America. And then we take Central America and then take South America. Anytime an empire can only grow so large before it crumbles within itself. This is what happened to the Greeks, what happened to the Romans, what happened to the Egyptians. It happened to everybody who tried to grow their empire beyond the limitations of what their empire should grow. America has no business trying to grow its empire because it's as large. Right now, we are as large as we can handle. We cannot fight a defensive war or even an aggressive war in Iran and in Greenland and in South America. We would crumble internally if we tried to do that. This is why Hitler lost, because he attacked Russia. When he was just fighting one front, he was able to win. As soon as he tried to fight two fronts, that's when he started to lose. We will be fighting three fronts. That is a lost situation, irregardless of the fact that we have this overwhelming amount of power. Once you anger Russia and China and NATO, we're at our wits' end. We can't fight all three of them. We would lose that fight. We wouldn't lose this country. But wherever the fighting is going on those three fronts, we would lose at least two of those fronts. The only one that we may be able to maintain and win would be on this side of the planet. On the other side of the planet, we lose it if Russia and China and NATO come together. So in the future, if this goes down, the future will be this was the worst president, because he fought a war that he could not win.
What if he does? I think he's betting on that too. He's betting on, I can take Greenland, and we liberated Venezuela, and we got oil from there, and we're liberating people of Iran, and we took care of Israel. He's looking at it. I think his ego allows him to see it that way, and it could work. I mean, to be fair, he did stop the situation in North Korea shortly after Obama came to office. I thought that was crazy. People thought he was crazy for what he was doing to stop it. I thought it was crazy. I thought it was funny. I was like, this shit ain't funny, because what if he actually shoot nukes? He's going back and forth with this guy, but he actually quelled what it was like brewing at the very brewing. As soon as Obama left, he's kind of like, not my problem anymore. You can take care of it. And he took care of it. And
that's one country at a time. This man is trying to fight three different fronts. You can't fight three fronts. If you're fighting one front, America can win. But three fronts, we're not going to win a three-front war. No one in history has been able to fight a three-front war and win. You know, when you look at the Roman Empire, even once they were fractured and then they came back together, when they were trying to fight up in Northern Europe, fight out in the Middle East, and fight in Africa, it was too much and it crumbled. Mm-hmm. Because you spread yourself too thin. And our military, as great as technology we have, is still going to be based on boots on the ground. And we don't have enough military to fight these three fronts. And the American people, will get frustrated once they start seeing caskets come back home. That will be the first. See, Americans, the modern day Americans have been pacified. You know, we went to Nicaragua, Panama, we went to Iraq, we went to Afghanistan. We didn't have a heavy death toll like we did with Vietnam. But you try to fight 3 fronts, you're going to see that death toll. And that's when you're going to lose the American population and morale is going to go out the window. So, no, this man is making it's an egotist. You're right. It's his ego.
It is.
But his
I've
ego.
had success here. I've had success there. Oh, you know, we won this. We did this. We did this. He's looking at objectively his successes. You know, oh, I stopped the thing and was, you know, I brokered the peace deal between Israel and Gaza. You know, I did that. You know, where's my peace prize? I did that. I stopped the situation in North Korea. You know, my ingenious and foresight, I did it. So, well, we did it one here. We did it one here. Why not Greenland? Why not Venezuela? Why not Iran? Why not? He is spreading himself too thin.
Yeah.
I don't think there's an argument that can be made that he hasn't had any successes. A lot of people would say, what success? That's not objective perspective at all. At least it sounds like
I agree that he has some successes, but there is only so far it goes, and he should know that from just a business perspective. When I had multiple popcorn shops going, it was great, you know. But then when I try to have the popcorn shops going and have the cigar lounge going, and I was the corporate everything, too thin, couldn't do it. And I had to start trimming stuff off. You can't fight. You got to know your limitations. So this man does not know his limitation. He's bought into the whole idea that America is God's country and we can do whatever we want to do. We can't. Especially
if you get shot in the ear and you barely missed the bullet, grazed your ear, and now you really think in your head, God is really, he's on my side, right? I'm his chosen one because I survived what should have been a life-ending situation, right? What happened to
that man? That
white guy? There's a lot involved, and there's people gassing him up about that too. You know, because I think at first he was kind of like, that was wild, that was bizarre. But you got other people around him saying, "Man, you are the chosen one. Man, do you know that what it should happen? This, if it was just a sentimental off, it should have been." He's like, yeah, okay. So I think he's just like going all in, kind of like poker. I'm putting all my cards on the table. Here it is, all in. I'm going for it, and it's like that could back. It's extreme. I personally would prefer if you just did one thing at a time. I understand why he's different elements, but if you just focus on one thing at a time, as he did in the past, I get one win, stack that win. This could blow up in his face. It's probably more likely that it will than it won't. I'm hoping that it won't, because he has a lot of people on his side who believe he also can do it. So it's not just him in his mind thinking I can do this. It's his cabinet around him saying, we can take on this. We can take on this. Yes, Mr. President. I don't think there's enough pushback against him to prevent his ambition. I understand his ambition. I get it. And that's how you get people getting killed in ICE, recruiting people. I got to beat my previous numbers of deportation, which I did check. It was roughly 2 million. For Obama's both terms combined, it was around 2.7 million. At this pace now, he's currently 700,000 people deported. So if you multiply that by 4, if you kept the same pace, it would be roughly the amount that Obama did in both of his terms in one term. I think he's just trying to he's kind of like, I want to beat my record. This is what I did in the first time. I want to beat, this is my last hurrah. I think that's just his mindset, and I think his intention for the American people. I just look at his Oprah videos and his previous interviews, what he would do as president. He's doing exactly what he said he was going to do, what he would do. Yeah. So I'm not personally surprised by what he's doing. I intentionally, consciously voted for that, knowing that this could go really, really, really great or really, really, really bad.
I think it's going to go really, really bad.
You think so?
Yeah, because he's also fighting. He will also wind up fighting a forefront, which is homegrown discontent within this country itself. Because if he continues, if the deportation stuff continues like it's happening right now, then you're going to see more and more angst within the American people. and it hasn't happened yet, but I foresee the next thing happening sometime this year, and I'm gonna be a prophet, damn it. Sometime this year, people are gonna start taking shots at these ICE agents, which is gonna erupt into a whole nother level of chaos within the country. Because people are going, you can only push people so far before they start fighting back. Every civilization has its limit, and somebody is plotting right now to start shooting these ICE agents. And I don't think and hopefully they stupid and don't know how to do it right. But there's plenty of people who know how to do it right. And if one person do it right, another person is going to copycat that, and they're going to do it right as well. So the man, he's creating his own chaos that's going to wind up kicking him in the ass. And the people that's going to be hurt the most are the average citizens in America. You're going to have military personnel who are going to feel the pain of it. And you're going to have American citizens who are going to feel the pain of it. All because of somebody's ego. And that's not what any civilized country in today's world needs, is somebody who is just full carte blanche ego. And he got a lot of support for his ego.
Yes.
And anytime somebody pushes back, he utilizes his power to shit on that person. I think this man I don't know, can't say if it's true or not, but this man has probably had more cabinet changes than anybody I've ever seen. Just from memory, I haven't seen this many cabinet people change. And most of it is because they disagree with his actions. So so as I said earlier, he got his own people scared to stand up to him. Shit, even that woman, I can't stand her, Marjorie Taylor Greene. Look what he did to her as soon as she stood up against him. And I don't even like her, but he just drugged that woman. So, this guy has to be stopped. And I'm not saying somebody should take his life. I'm not saying that at all. I first believe that even though the Constitution said that we can abolish the government if the government is not for the people, I think that abolishment should come from the inside, that he should be impeached for his actions and for the actions of his cabinet. I don't want
this. It's a strong word.
Yeah, I fully embrace it, that he should be impeached. Unfortunately, we have nothing but weakness that's running our government because they're all afraid of him. Well, not all of them, but most of them are afraid of him. I've only seen
fear, or is it
fear,
or is it sort of like how a great pastor has the gift of gab, and you can see that he's leading all to hell, so to speak. But he speaks so well, so eloquently. He dresses so nice. He has that charisma about him. And that's not. I don't see those people being. Oh, I'm scared to go to pastor, so I have to go be around him. I see these people that he aligned himself with as being lovers of what he believes in, genuinely. I don't think that they could be under duress or some sort of fear state to operate, I just need to keep my job. Because like you said, he had a lot of cabinet changes in his first term, which was true. He had a lot of them. I mean, which makes sense. You didn't have any government experience whatsoever, not at the local level, the state level. He just came straight in, businessman, president. Like, that's crazy. No, I mean, I think there's only one other person that did that, I think, from memory. So I'm not surprised he had those cabinet changes. He doesn't understand government. So this time it's kind of like, well, let me get the right people around me who's going to help me further my agenda. I think it's probably more likely the case, not that he has a lot more people who just simply aligns with what he believes in. These are the people who I know are for me and my agenda. They're not going to give me as much pushback as the people in my first cabinet who was impeding on what I was trying to achieve. And so it's more likely that the people that he have, the Christian, the Gnomes, all of his press secretary, even the guy who is a Secretary of State, Marco Rubio. Like he was the stuff he said, the stuff they said about each other years back, you would think they were enemies, but it's like he got on his side. He's going to help me with this agenda, and I don't think it's fear. I think it's most likely I believe in what this man is saying. I'm persuaded by what he's saying. And even if I didn't believe him before, I believe him now, and we're going to go with this. I think that's most likely the case.
I see it as fear. It's Rubio, to use Rubio as an example. Rubio got his ass caught. He hemmed Rubio up, and then Rubio was like, you know what? I can't beat him, so I might as well join him. That is, it's all fear. Yeah, that is fear.
Respect.
When people don't go against the pastor because they know the other people, that the pastor can ruin that person, and that the other people are going to follow him. And see, he got that grassroots, poor, disenfranchised white people, Spanish people on his side, and they are afraid. You can look at, where's Rubio at? He's over there in Florida, right? He's in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
He's Florida, right?
And
he got all these, and he knows that he got all those white people and Spanish people who identify as white and Republicans. He know that he will not be able to keep his position if he don't support what Trump is supporting, because those people have bought into the words. So they are like the rest of the church members. But if you put Rubio, say, like an assistant pastor type position, he knows that the only way he gets his bread buttered is that he got to join in with the bullshit, even though he may or may not be against it. But I think he's against it to this degree. And that out of fear of losing his position, he just saddled up and said, well, you know what? I might as well just go with the flow. And that's fear. That's not being, charisma and all that. And the man doesn't have it. He doesn't have the type of charisma. He's losing. He talked about Biden so bad. He's exhibiting some of the same damn traits: falling asleep, mispronouncing words, don't know what to say. Rubio passed him that note, and this motherfucker reads the note, and which was embarrassing as hell.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
it was inside. He was just telling him he had something else. The guy had something else more to say. It wasn't like, "Oh, you forgot this, Mr. President." It was more like he had something additional to say.
No,
that's definitely true.
Trump was going on one of them ain't got shit to do with what we talking about, and Rubio sent him a note saying, "Get back to Chevron." He was going on in one of them tangents that he be going on, that these dumbass people believe is his weave, but he was going on an old man tangent. And Rubio was like, get your old senile ass back into the conversation that we're supposed to be having.
He was in alignment with I don't know, maybe we saw two different things. He was in alignment with the conversation, but if you was the president or the organization of a company, it would be impossible for you to have eyes and ears on every single little detail. I think the fact that he even has the guts to do these press conferences, a lot of them himself, he doesn't have to do it. Most presidents don't do it. They usually have spokespeople do it for them. They like to kind of be behind the scenes usually, unless they have to be front and center, unless they have to be. He's choosing to basically take the job of his press secretary in a lot of cases where she could do it. I want to do it that's not typical. So you have to have a certain level of aptitude to do something like that and to want to do something like that. Because you're taking all these questions, all these people, you might get a little distracted. But I would argue you would get a little distracted. That's what you have a cabinet for, to kind of like rein you in a little bit. Oh, hey, by the way, don't forget about this. Oh, yeah, that's right. Go ahead. And he's like, oh yeah, go ahead, Chevron, guys. Right? So that's normal. But the fact that he's doing that basically off the top of his head, he's pretty sharp. Right, he remembers people's names. He calling them out, and oh yeah, we had this conversation. Very specific details. To say that he's like senile and his demeanor like Biden was, it's not even. Yeah, he's older, but I don't think most people, even our age. You say you're in your 50s. I'm in my 30s. I don't think most people our age would have the level of the ability to do what he does at that level. But to say that he's senile or that he's showing signs of dementia and all this other stuff, that to me seems a bit far-fetched. I just based on my observations, like, okay, he's 80 years old, but he's still pretty sharp. I don't know. That's just me.
We just gonna have to disagree on that.
Disagree.
Only a senile motherfucker will sit up there and start cussing out people because they ask him a question that he don't like. You know, calling people dumb and all this kind of stuff. That's that old man. I'm gonna say whatever I want to say kind of bullshit because I don't care anymore. And that's a early sign of being senile, and it's definitely not presidential to just go half cocked and stuff, just saying shit like that. And when people pass you notes, they're not to be read out loud. But you ain't smart enough to recognize that this is where you should shut all the hells up and just read the note and then follow the note. All right. You don't just read out something because somebody handed it to you.
That's how New York. I mean, he's blunt. He's always been that way, though. Even his first term, he'll say it like it is, and you'll be like, "Why do you keep that to yourself?"
Right.
It's crazy to people. I thought it was funny. I was like, he actually read out what the note. He could have just simply said Chevron, right? But instead, he said, "Oh, Marco wants me to say." He wants me to. Or the time when he got up and looked outside the window, he got up and looked out. He got up and looked outside the window.
I'm gonna find it
outside, isn't it?
I could be wrong, and I don't mind being wrong. But let me hold on for a second here.
I think that's just transparency, like just maybe too much. Like, hey man, you're telling us everything that's on your mind. I don't know. I think it's interesting.
Hold on, let's
We're Phoenix Energy, a family-owned oil company focused on unleashing American oil from North Dakota and Montana.
All right, thank you. You'll make it back one way or the other. You're all going to do very well. I think really very well. Marco just gave me a note. Go back to Chevron. They want to discuss something. Go ahead. I'm going back to Chevron, Marco.
It doesn't show what we were talking about beforehand.
Was there a question, Mr. President?
Yes, go ahead, Marco. What are you saying here?
Thank you, Mr. President. Appreciate the opportunity to be here too. And you've assembled a great team, and our congratulations as well for removing one of the terrible people in the world and bringing them to justice. It was quite amazing. I think you've given hope to the people of Venezuela again, which I think is quite remarkable. And we've been on the other end of that despot regime a long time. Our assets were expropriated. I had a little bit more hair when that happened. And, you know, I think we're the largest non-sovereign credit holder in Venezuela today. So we're in a bit of a different situation, but I think your big and bold idea to use energy commerce instead of conflict is something that could make a real big difference in Venezuela. And our company certainly stands ready to help in that endeavor.
That's the BP.
Encourage you to continue to think bigger and even bolder. And we've had some discussions with your energy team about that as well. As we think about the other people that need to be in this room and in this discussion are the banks, and including probably the Exim Bank, as we think about how the debt needs to be restructured and the financing to deliver the billions of dollars that are required to restore their energy infrastructure. And I think as we think that big and bold, we need to be also thinking about even restructuring the entire Venezuelan energy system, including PDVSA. And I think if we can do that and think bold, there's an opportunity to be quick, fast, and restore the quality of what's happened in Venezuela or what's been lost in Venezuela over the course of the last 25 years. So thank you for this opportunity.
Well, thank you very much. And you'll get a lot of your money back. We're going to start with an even plate, though. We're not going to look at what people lost in the past because that was their fault. That was a different president. You're going to make a lot of money, but we're not going to go back. You left a lot of money behind, I guess, huh? What number?
12 billion.
How much?
12 billion.
Well,
damn.
Good write-off.
It's already been written off.
It's been written. All right, thank you. You'll make it back one way or the other. You're all going to do very well. I think really very well. Marco just gave me a note. Go back to Chevron. They want to discuss something. Go ahead. I'm going back to Chevron, Marco. Thank you, Marco.
Was there a question, Mr. President?
Yes, go ahead, Marco. What are you saying here?
Mark, if you can update us on operations in the ground and with the program.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just a reminder. I mean, what scene?
Well,
What
no,
senile action was that?
I'm not going to say, hold on now. I'm not going to say that was a reminder. I can see how you may think that that was a reminder, but what I'm seeing personally is the fact that BP had a problem, even though he was kissing his ass about going into Venezuela. And I believe that was the BP executive. BP was saying that they were kind of against going right back in there and reestablishing themselves into Venezuela because of what they had lost in Venezuela prior to that. And he was engaging in that conversation about what they lost. And in order to get back to, let me say, a good side of this whole thing for them, Marco was saying, like, don't talk with the BP about this shit because we already have BP is already not 100% down with us for this. So let's move on to somebody who's willing to go back into Venezuela, which was Chevron.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's more of the context of what was going on at that time frame. Because I don't know if you remember all the other stories about how BP was like, yeah, we ain't really, you took this dude out of here, it's still fucked up, and we're not willing to go in there and lose some more money.
Yeah.
So, and then to not have that filter, to be able to just read the note, having a lack of a filter is one of those signs of dementia. And the man
has always been this way. That's the thing. And since his 20s and 30s, he's always been that to New York. Man, I've met some, I know some New York cats. I couldn't believe it, but they have that gravitas, that I'm gonna say it like I mean it, I'm gonna say it like it. That's just the way they are. Trump has always been this way since he was young. He just if he was younger, you couldn't say that because it's like, well, it's impossible for him to have dementia unless he had like head trauma or something. But he's always been the way he is.
Here's the thing. You got to be able to read the room and you got to know what position you're standing in. I'm smart enough to know that if by some major upheaval of the American mentality, I became president, I know that I can't say the same shit that I say now if I was president, because reading the room and understanding my position at that level, I can't just say what I want to say. My stuff got to be tempered to a point where I can get things done and where I can maintain the respect of the country and what the honor that the country should have. So some of the things that if that happened, y'all ain't gonna see me doing these videos no more. I can't do these videos no more. And so it doesn't matter who I used to be. Now I got to be the person that I need to be in order to be in that position. And being in that position, I'm supposed to be a unifier of the country and lead the country, not someone who's going to continuously create division within the country. Could you imagine an American president that's sitting up here going live talking about how historically Christianity is a bunch of bullshit? That's not going to work. So I would have to change. I can't say what I want to say. Would I be able to go on there and tell reporters that they stupid and that they dumb and they call them all kind of names? No, I can't do that. Even if I really, really wanted to. Like, I know Bill Clinton wanted to tell people this shit is between me and my wife, as whether or not me and that other woman, I banged that other woman. And it might be an agreement between me and my wife. And he probably wanted to cuss everybody out, like stay out of our fucking business. But he knew he couldn't say that. So he had to say some bullshit. I never had sex with that woman. That was some, we all know that he was lying. But he can't say, yeah, I had sex with her. And me and my wife have an understanding because we ain't had sex in 20 years. She know I be bang banging.
So you're telling me
you got barriers of things you can't say.
You would rather prefer that it was that Bill Clinton had, now that we know the backlash of the lie that he told, believe, like, okay, he would have been better off just telling the truth. You saying,
No,
well, even knowing
no,
the aftermath, I still would prefer that he had lied to us the way that he did.
no. Yes, as a president of America, you got limitations on what you can say, and you have to read the room. See, right before that happened to Clinton, the French president got caught up into some kind of twist like that, right? But in France, a president having an affair is not a big deal. In America, a president having an affair is a big deal. So that's why I'm saying you got to read the room. There are certain things that other officials might be able to say in their country, but you can't say that shit in America. Kennedy came out and said that he was banging Marilyn Monroe. Not this Puritan. See, America has this Puritan mentality, but know what the reality is. And Americans want to keep their Puritan mentality and think that the president is this shining, gleaming, honorable version of America.
Sure.
So you have to maintain that as president. Obama could have been banging all kinds of secretaries or other cabinet members, but he can't say it. He can't let it be publicized. You got to step back from that bullshit and be what America wants you to be.
Want you to be.
Right. But still be effective to get your shit done. So you can't be in meetings falling asleep. You can't do that. Even though he criticized Joe Biden for falling asleep during meetings, this month is falling asleep during meetings. Right? You can't sit up there and just make these claims. Oh, I got the best health and my ear just healed miraculously. You can't be sitting up there saying bullshit like that. Especially when you didn't even get shot in the first place. You can't say stuff like that. No.
Do you understand? Like, that's the reason why he got, because of the typical president mode that you just painted about how a president is supposed to be holding, presenting a certain, basically a facade, a certain image of what. The reason why he got elected is because he was kind of like, you remember, I don't know if you follow wrestling, but how you had the squeaky clean wrestling thing in the 80s with Hogan, and then boom, you had NWO, then you had Steve Austin, you had the anti-hero. You began, at first, the heels used to be the guys you was against. You would actively boo them. You're supposed to boo them. Then they became the guys that you cheer for. So in a way, Trump is the anti-hero. He is the Stone Cold Steve Austin version of what is kind of like a phase, right? For a long time, the Puritan culture, long time, decades and decades of presidents. I hold these truths to be self-evident, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
Then you had this guy come in and go like, listen, man, I don't like the way y'all talk. We got to clean this shit up. It's like, oh, this guy's talking crazy. I like that. Do you not see the appeal in that?
They did. And I was a big wrestling fan. And the Attitude Era lasted and was as good as it was until they started pushing the limit. Once they started pushing the limit, they had to go back to the heels and the baby faces, because you can only push. McMahon was smart enough to know that you can only push that attitude that attitude era to a certain degree, and D-Generation X pushed it beyond its limits. And it all came crumbling down. NWO got pushed beyond its limits. NWO was cool at first. But then once NWO became the mainstream of WCW and everything was pushed towards NWO, the company failed. And McMahon bought it. And when he bought it, he brought it in. He tried to revive it to the level that it was when it was successful, but it crumbled, and he got rid of the whole skit was taken away at that point. So you can only, he's now pushing that got him in office, the Attitude Era, but now he's pushing beyond the limitations of it, and that's why he's losing support on his side, because he's pushed beyond the limits of the Attitude Era. So he's doing so he's not even, he was a part of all that bullshit back then.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he was.
But so he's not, right now he is in that situation where he is beyond what the Attitude Era can provide, beyond what the NWO can provide. And he's gone to the point where people are now looking at it like, this ain't entertaining no more. This is not good anymore. You know, only his diehards are still sitting up there talking, oh yeah, this is we love this. No, that shit died on mainstream. And so he gotta know when to adjust. And him pushing this Greenland and Iran and talking about, oh yeah, we're gonna get Colombia and we're gonna stranglehold Cuba with oil, and you know, talking about these other countries that he gonna go get, and claiming himself to be the interim president of Venezuela. His own base is starting to look a little starting to turn their face at this nonsense. But I'm gonna let somebody else get up here, my man, because we can beat this horse to death.
But it's been a pleasure.
Been a pleasure, yo.
It's crazy. It's crazy how you took my analogy and try to tell you slick. I like it though. This has been interesting.
Well, you happen to bring it into. I'm a nerd, man. I study a whole bunch of everything. So when I was watching Attitude Era, and then I saw how it changed, that's what got me out of watching wrestling, because they pushed the limit too far, and I was like, okay, this shit is not entertaining no more. And so that's when I stopped watching wrestling.
Stopped watching because it went too far. I stopped watching because they went and switched to PG. They lost the edge. So we had two different reasons why we quit watching it.
Well, they pushed the edge to the point where I couldn't let if I didn't feel comfortable letting my 12 and 14-year-old watch it, then it's not worth me watching. So once they got to that point, then it's like, okay, they going too damn far, and I'm going to stop my kids from watching it, but I'm not going to be a hypocrite and tell my kids you can't watch it, but then I'm still watching it. There are certain things made for adults, but wrestling was not supposed to be just for adults only. So I wasn't going to be a hypocrite in that era.
Fair enough. It's been a pleasure.
Been a pleasure, Joseph. Appreciate you. Let's add Scott.
Hey, what's up, Mr. Renz? How you doing, sir?
Pretty good, Scott. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, man. Just been listening to the stream, and
you're gonna be my last one because we 3 hours and 21 minutes in.
Yeah, I see that. You've been going for a minute.
Yeah.
I just kind of wanted to tie it back around really quick before you ended it to religion and politics. And something I thought about just listening to everything is that, actually religion and politics are both connected in some ways, right?
Always
like, you know what I mean?
Always have been.
Always have been, because both really, mainly, they both create like in-group identity anyways. Like for religions, it's like the believers versus the non-believers, and the politics is us versus them. And so they both use symbols and speeches and language, rituals, things like that. But, with Trump, though, because, they all kind of do it to some extent. But for me, Trump is kind of like blatant with it. You know what I mean? And always has been. So I'm not really sure why people are really surprised at how shit really devolved. I mean, like now you're surprised that this shit has happened. Now you want to pull back your support. It's like, motherfucker, you saw this shit from the beginning.
Yeah.
Like what are they really talking about at this point?
No, I'm see. So, like I said earlier, when he first started running, I thought this would be great because I've always wanted a business person to take over the government. I was sick of these career politicians. But the more and more he talked, I saw it early on that this man is not going to be good for this country. And so when he was running for a second term, I knew his ego was going to cause more damage than good. So I had to, for me, it was like, hell no. People who did vote for him, a lot of them are regretting that vote now. You know, especially those in minority groups are regretting. The minority groups and the farmers are regretting that, even though the writing was on the wall. You could clearly see it.
I mean, how much more clear do you got to be? I mean, the dude does not like women. He doesn't like LGBTQ people. He doesn't like black people. He don't like poor people. The only thing he likes is his own power. That's all that man likes. And that's all he really supported from the beginning. So when people start crying and carrying on about it, I'm like, what do you want me to say? Welcome to 8 years later. You know, it's like, where have you been? Welcome to 8 years ago, rather.
He put on a good facade. You know, he did things like increase the budget for historically black colleges, right?
Yeah.
He's re-upping that pledge, which then makes people say, oh, he likes black people. No, you do enough. You throw some little carrots out there for people to bite on to keep them from really seeing who you are. Right. And he does the same thing with poor white people and some immigrants. He throws just enough carrots out there to keep the people from really seeing the bullshit that's going on. And
it's all bullshit, man.
And people get stuck on that. And he knows that religion and politics have always been intertwined. And whether he's a true Christian or not, I hate that term. If you believe in Jesus, you're a Christian. He recognizes that all he got to say is talk about being a Christian. And that's enough for those Christian people to still stick with this man.
Yeah.
And think that he's been sent by God. I think that's why, not just because of that, do I think the shooting at him was staged, but just understanding how a shooting works, that shit was staged.
Yeah.
You know, that was a blood pack that he utilized. Because if a bullet whizzed by your ear, the surrounding air would have ripped that ear off and it would have went back and not forward.
That's right.
So that was bullshit. That was a state. That was WWE, as they call it.
Everything about that guy and his administration is just bullshit. Like, it's so easy to see it. Like, you know, like you had mentioned, Obama actually deported more people than Trump, which is very true according to those statistics, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the one thing Obama didn't do is he didn't cry about it and talk about it and brag about it and make it into this big divisive situation that we have. Like, is it any wonder we see people getting shot in the street, pulled out of their cars, all this kind of harassment from the federal government of ordinary citizens? It's because he uses divisive rhetoric. And that's exactly what's going on. And then you've got all these people that don't want to see it because, like I always say, people are not as rational as we like to think we are. You know, we're good at rationalizing shit we do, but we're not good at really making decisions with a rational basis like we think we do. You know what I mean? Like, we're all biased. We all have a bias. We all have our own, you know, virtues that we want to signal about. And all that's true and everything, you know, but if you really realize that, it kind of tempers you and kind of gives you a more humble approach to life, period. And that's why I really hate getting involved in a lot of political discussions with people and even religious discussions with folks, unless they're really open and ready to be criticized and have some pushback, you know, and at least be able to provide me some pushback on my beliefs that make some kind of sense, you know, because it's like you said, you're never really going to get through to people through just reasons alone. You've got to hit them where it hurts. In other words, you got to hit them where the emotional centers are, because that's really what's promoting their beliefs, is their feelings and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it does. And people aren't going to rationalize things. They're going to take their one little moment of seeing something, their one little piece, and they're going to say, "Oh no, he's not racist at all." Somebody said something. I mean, I heard everything you said. Don't get me wrong. I can multitask a little bit.
You got skills.
Where was it? I saw it pop up for a second. Oh yeah, this comment here saying that he was the first person to open up his country club to Florida to blacks, Jews. Yeah, that sounds racist to me. See, we'll pinpoint that, but at the same time, all you have to mention is the Central Park Five.
That's right.
He took out a big billboard newspaper ad talking about how the Central Park Five need to be, I think, executed, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we'll forget about Central Park Five. We'll forget about his racial discrimination lawsuits back in 1973, right? We'll forget about him calling foreign nations shitholes. The way he called COVID-19 a kung fu virus.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
yeah,
we'll forget about all those things because he opened up his country. Well, hell, Augusta National finally opened up theirs to blacks and Jews, but trust me, them motherfuckers still racist as hell.
Yeah.
Just because you throw a couple of breadcrumbs out there doesn't mean that you've changed your ways. You know.
Look at my fine African Americans. Aren't they wonderful?
Yeah, exactly. That kind
you know, he'll play the race card when you know it benefits him, you know, when it's convenient. But remember, there was good on both sides. You know, he's always going to take up for the Proud Boys and people that support him.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, and it's people like to say, well, what about Biden? You know, Biden also said that he didn't want his son going to a interracial jungle or whatever. It's all true. But the thing is, it's a matter of degree, though. Like, this is why the whole political conversation kind of sucks for me, because they're all kind of guilty of it to some extent. But Trump is just so blatant. I don't see how anybody could not see that.
Yeah, what, 2 years ago, he said that people who come into this country, immigrants who come into this country and commit murder, that they have bad genes.
Low IQ, yeah.
This is promoting eugenics. Eugenics is the thing that still allows for black women to die post having a baby more so than any other group, because eugenics say that black women can handle pain more and they just complain. You know, so when they complain about pain, they're ignored. But that eugenic mentality has caused so many deaths and disproportionate health care and treatment by police and other people, other government agencies, simply because somebody believes that black people are all criminals, or they're liars, or they can handle more pain, they're subhuman. And he said the same thing in so that'd be 2024 about immigrants, that they have bad genes, they're genetically predisposed to murder people.
Yeah.
So what does that create to his followers? That creates a situation where they think, oh, all immigrants are murderers. And so the guy who's been working in your bakery for the last 20 years, obeying as many laws as he possibly can, now this person is considered to be a murderer because he got bad genes. Oh, he come from that country. Oh, he got bad genes. So they're nothing but a bunch of murderers.
Yeah.
That's the eugenic bullshit that when I was talking to the guy from Nigeria, well, his family's from Nigeria, that's the kind of bullshit that I encountered in certain countries, because all they knew about Black Americans was that they just knew the NWA stuff, you know, gangster rap and black people just walking around shooting and killing everybody, raping all the women. It's the same bullshit. And there's a what is it called? Reefamania. So old school documentary called Reefamania.
Yeah.
Where they use marijuana to say that, oh, it makes you this sex crave maniac. And then the heroin, when they was fighting the heroin addiction, the main way they fought it was that if your white woman does heroin, she gonna go and have sex with a black man. And black men, when they on heroin, they go out and they rape white women.
Yeah. Yeah.
By saying that immigrants got bad genes and they're going to commit murder, you're promoting the same type of bullshit that created.
Because it worked. It worked. Yeah. It was already in the consciousness of the society here. You know, just look at the old cartoons back then that they were feeding the children, man, the racist cartoons and all that. I mean, that's how these people grew up, man.
Yeah, and I forgot about this statement. They're eating all the cats and they're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats.
Yeah. Yep, I remember all that shit.
That just pushed division between people like left and right, because now all of a sudden, you know, I grew up, and honestly, I may still make a joke about it every now and then. Like, I ain't gonna lie. I'll make the joke in private. This was a private joke that I made between me and my wife when we was leaving this Chinese restaurant, and there was a bunch of damn cats out back, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I was telling the cat, you better run. Now, where does that come from?
Right.
That comes from growing up with people promoting that when you go to a Chinese restaurant and you know had them little chicken legs about that big. Yeah, that comes from people saying that, oh man, they killing you eating cats and dogs when you go there, right?
Yeah, man.
And that was some misinformation that you was taught. And even to this day, I will never make that. I would never say, even though I just said it publicly, I was saying it, but it was for effect, that you grow up believing dumb shit because somebody said it. So how many people are going to believe that Haitians are eating dogs and cats out of people's neighborhoods because of what this man what he said during that election? You know, that's what people are going to think. And they're going to think that shit is true. Now, albeit, if you go to other countries, people eat different shit in their country because the animals aren't seen the same. You know, I was in Spain and they eating emu. And I'm thinking, why you eat an emu? That's crazy. But they eat it.
I went to a Korean restaurant. I said, man, this food is good. I'll never look at dogs and cats the same.
Yeah.
But
that's been that product of growing up. And there are certain things you may, but logically, you know, that's not what's going on. Right. At least not here. Because also when I was in Spain and I went through this meat market, I saw skinned cats. They were selling cats because to them, at least in Barcelona, some people see cats as pets, but obviously a lot of people saw cats as a meal.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to recognize I'm not in America. I'm in somebody else's country.
Right.
This is what they do. It doesn't mean that I'm going to do it. This is what they do. When I was in Benidorm and that dude told me that burger was made out of goat, that it was a goat burger, I was at first 20 years old. I was like, what in all the hells that you got me eating goat for? Because in America in the early 90s, we didn't eat goat.
Mm-hmm. Right. Right.
I don't know what goat's purposes were in America, but we didn't eat them motherfuckers back then. But other people, other countries, they do things differently. But when you try to utilize that to create division amongst people so that they can say, oh, we got to get them out of this country. They got to go. They got to leave because they're eating cats and dogs and that makes them savages. Take your ass to India and try to kill a cow. You're
exactly.
Now you're the savage.
And we live in a melting pot, as they say, of different cultures and different peoples and everything like that. And this is why I say, you know, none of this stuff is really aligning with spirituality. Neither religion nor politics has anything to really do with spirituality, in my view. I know that's a no true Scotsman fallacy or whatever, but I'm just saying that as far as my understanding of let's say a preferable version of spirituality would be non-dualism, you know, something that brings people together, something that we can see oneness in things, you know, rather than all this separation and dichotomous thinking. Because you wonder, why are we all surprised that America has always been divided. It's always been racist. It's always been us against them on, throughout religion, throughout cultures, everything, even though we're a melting pot. And it's because we lack spirituality, or at least the kind of spirituality I'm talking about, which is a more non-dual approach to reality. You know what I mean? And it just seems to me that all of this dualism just fosters, the chosen people type shit. It's all in our language. That's why it's hard to even talk about non-dualism, because our language is dualistic, and it all comes from that Christian, Judeo-Christian bullshit of God's chosen people, his special property. It's I'm the creator, you're the creation, you have dominion over nature and all this kind of stuff. It's unrealistic.
Yeah. And it comes from a Western mindset.
Correct.
Because Christianity in other places is very different from the Western Christianity that is the overlord of mentality here in America. And because of that Eurocentric mindset, we don't have dualism. We don't allow for, I think you said a melting pot. We don't allow for a melting pot in America. It's you need to conform to our Western Judeo-Christian mentality and how we think and how we do things, and you need to become a part of it. What that lady who teaches on racism, she's been teaching it forever. I only know she's still alive. When she was like, truly America should be looked upon as a sect. Mixture of very different things that come together to make something great. But everything is still distinctively its own. The tomato is the tomato, the lettuce is the lettuce, the cucumbers are the cucumbers. But you put all that shit together with a little chicken, you got you a good salad, throw some dressing on. It's a good salad. But to melt everything into a soup where everything tastes the same, everything has to be the same. That's more the that Judeo-Christian mentality that has a Western spin on it. Because of that, we got to support everything Israel does. Well, they're genociding the shit out of these Palestinians. We got to support it because the Bible says those who bless Israel will be blessed. Those who hate Israel, those who curse Israel will be cursed. That type of mentality says that we're going to support whatever they do, and they're following their Bible and genociding people because that's what the Bible tells them to do, is to genocide those who you do not agree with, those who are not part of your ethnicity or your religious belief. And that's what we see through this political regime, is that if you don't agree with us, then we're going to annihilate you. And we're going to do it whether it's your character or you as a person, you shall be annihilated.
Yeah, and you see how people rationalize that shit, because like all on the social media and all on my Facebook and this and that, you've got all these people that are saying, well, you don't bring a gun to a protest with ammo and stuff, you F around and find out and blah, blah, blah. But, it's like when the right does it, if a bunch of protesters showed up on January 6th or at the BLM march or whatever with guns and everything, they're just exercising their, their rights, their constitutional rights. Exactly. That picture right there says it all, and it's like people rationalize what they want, their beliefs. They're stuck in their beliefs. And beliefs is such bullshit, like it's the root of bullshit.
Yeah, and we're seeing this in Minneapolis, where this man didn't violate any laws, didn't violate any persons, and he was murdered for it.
Yep.
And they are all just jackbooted up, trying to support this thing, regardless of what they actually see. Like, I've watched this video probably about 20 times, 30 times from different angles. And there is not one angle that I looked at it and I was like, oh, and I look at everything for what it is. If I had did a show when Kyle Rittenhouse, his situation, I'd have pissed off a lot of people. He went to a neighborhood that he ain't had no business going to. Yes. He brought a weapon. Yes. Should he have been in that neighborhood? Technically, he has the right of travel, freedom of travel, but common sense should have said you shouldn't go into that neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
When people attacked him, did he have a right to defend himself? He did. Did he give up to the police properly and so on and so forth? He did. But he was dead wrong still, because my perspective, he went looking for trouble. But they all supported him in what he was doing. So that is to say, if I went into the trailer park because there was riots or, going on, and I purposely went to a trailer park here in San Antonio, I'm going there looking for problems.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going there not to purposely say, oh, I just want to defend the people and their property who are there. No, I'm going there looking for the problem. And yeah, I might be valid in my defense of myself, but my initial going there, that's problematic. This man showed up with a camera. The only thing he ever had in his hand was a camera.
Yeah.
He didn't try to attack. He attacked no one at no point in this whole thing. And he has a right to observe and record what government agencies are doing. So even though they have some similarities, they are very different.
Oh yeah.
In how it was processed.
Yeah, I had somebody tell me today that I was saying it's a damn shame he was just trying to protect the woman and ended up getting shot and all that. And he said, and then this right winger guy gets on and goes, yeah, well, he was just virtue signaling, so he got what was coming to him. Like, what?
What does virtue signaling mean?
It's like you're trying to prove that you care about women, or you could be a virtue signaler and say, well, I care about freedom, so I always talk about freedom. Or it's like virtue signaling. Like you're just.
So what the hell was January 6th then?
Right.
Acting like they care about the Constitution.
Yeah, it's virtue.
They're trying to disrupt a constitutional process.
Exactly.
That would be the same damn thing.
Right. And we all have a right to virtue signal. We all want to signal our virtues. Like,
and this man, when you look at his history, Freddie's history, he worked as an ICU nurse at the local VA hospital.
Mm-hmm.
He gives the one video they keep showing is him giving last military rights to a victim, a veteran.
Yeah.
After he passed away. The man's whole career path is helping people. So of course he's the type of person that would show up at that type of an event to record the bullshit that they was doing.
And then you have this other crowd of people that are saying it was all staged. It was a fake flag event in order to for the left to put down the right or whatever. It's like, that's ridiculous. And yet these are the same people that said, or these are different people. It reminded me of that Sandy Hook situation where that was all a false flag to take our guns away. But in this case, it wasn't to take our guns away. In this case, it was for the left to make ICE look bad or something. Like, you would go through all that trouble and come on now.
I don't think they went through all that trouble. Now, I will say there's a part of them that does say that, oh, well, this is a good distraction because at first this is what they was talking about as far as Minnesota.
Yeah, yeah.
But in the same light, this Venezuela and Greenland shit is a good way to distract from them Epstein files. Because ever since them Epstein files, everything's been ratcheted up.
Oh, yeah.
Let's ratchet this shit up so people can stop paying attention to that.
Wag the dog.
And it's going to be, if that shit ever actually comes out, you're going to see everybody on the list. Democrats, Republicans, judges, entertainers, business people. A lot of powerful people is probably on that list.
Mm-hmm.
So there's probably a lot of people interested in keeping that shit silent.
Of course.
So that's why I think independently. I can't think on political lines, can't think on religious lines, because then you never see what's actually going on. You know, what actually happened. You won't get to the truth of anything.
That's right.
Because at the end of the day, powerful people are going to do some dirty shit. That's how most of them become
They
powerful.
want to divide us and keep us distracted so they can run off with all the money, man. It's the oldest trick in the book.
Yeah, I have yet to meet a person who is in that 1%, in that 0.1% that hasn't done anything dirty.
Right.
I've yet to meet one. You somewhere there's some dirt. It may
and
be
you got
low,
to be
it may
that
be
kind of
low
minded person. You got to be very narcissistic anyways to think that you can rule a whole country, that you should be the commander in chief. Like, you got to have some kind of, you know, unless you're like, I don't know, President Carter was one person I could look at that seemed like a humble kind of person, but everybody else seemed like they just had an air of superiority. And it's probably, that's good for them to be that way. That makes them strong leaders. You know, you need to be a strong leader in the world, but you know, it comes with a lot of blowback. It comes with a lot of shit, you know?
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to become a powerful person and not have have something wrong with you, because we all do. You know, I've studied General Patton a lot when I was in the military, and as great of a general he had some character flaws. You know, like when he was I think it was in Sicily, when he was slapping the shit out of one of his troops because he didn't want to go. He was scared of fighting. Now, PTSD wasn't a thing back then.
Right.
So he didn't have any mindset of PTSD. He figured you're a coward. And it wasn't just one troop that he did that to. He did that to a lot of them motherfuckers. He just got caught on that one dude. But he court-martialed some people because they refused to fight, or they were scared to fight, or it rattled them. You know what I'm saying? Because it didn't rattle them.
Idi Amin and Saddam Hussein and all these leaders are harsh and, you know, tyrannical, and they do some crazy shit to their people, man.
But that is where the people have to be able to mobilize. And that's one of the good things about the Constitution, that it allows for people to mobilize and uproot a government when it went beyond what the people can bear.
Yeah.
And we're headed that way, in my opinion. We're headed that way, and it's being back. And like you said, religion has always been part of the whole deal. But because of that religion, it makes it harder. Because you got people on both sides claiming Christianity, but they're all seeing it differently.
Oh yeah.
And that is problematic within itself. If this is supposed to be this true word of this God, there shouldn't be any confusion.
No, it doesn't foster peace. It fosters division and duality. That's I don't know if you know, like these monks that are marching and stuff. There's a lot of Christians really angry about that shit, man.
Can you see my video?
I don't know, but there's this one. Oh yeah, I think I did. You did have a thing about the Christians are big mad or something like that.
Yep.
And yeah. Okay, I was getting you confused with something else, but yeah, there's a lot of Christians on TikTok that keep coming up every day talking about that stuff. Oh, you know, why can't we speak our mind? You know, why can't we say something to protest this demonism and this idolatry and all of this kind of garbage? You know, it's like they're so dualistic in their thinking, you know, and these Buddhists are non-dualists. So they're more peaceful. They're actually peaceful.
You being nice. Them motherfuckers are hypocrites.
Yeah.
They're hypocrites. They're supposed to, the modern thought process of Christianity is that it's about peace and love. Yet you see somebody doing peace and love, but because they don't believe in what you believe in, you want to antagonize them and demonize them for doing what you're supposed to be doing or you should be doing according to how you view your religion today. So and part of it, I think, is also jealousy. You see them getting all this attention and getting all this love from people, but you haven't been able to get that because you didn't think about it.
That's right. They would never do it.
Your ass should have thought, you know what, we're going to go to Texas and walk to the Capitol for peace. So because you didn't come up with the idea, now you want to demonize it and try to make yourself great, you know, by saying that I'm a champion for Jesus. No, you're an antagonizer. And it kills me when I see these people doing it, especially those who your ancestors were forced into this religion. And now, you know, this is the hill you want to die on? Really? This your hill. When y'all got pedophilia going on in your churches, you're robbing people for their cash, and you ain't promoting peace in no form or fashion. The only thing you're saying is keep voting. Let your local politician come in and trick you into giving them your money and your vote. And you ain't done shit.
You already know it's bullshit when they only show up for something like that. You never see them show up for other stuff. Like you never see them out there at some other assembly where they don't believe in what's going on, like maybe a fucking nightclub or something. You know, they hardly ever show up there picking people, and because they know, you know, they don't, they're probably part of that shit. They're probably at the club.
Yeah, they at the club. What you talking about?
They're at the abortion clinic.
The only time you see them is when they're standing on the corner with them and the Power Rangers, and they on the corner trying to yell at people all damn day. Tell them they just trying to bolster their membership. They always want to get your money. But look here, bro, I'm about to get off here.
All right, brother. Thank you, man.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
All right.
Always a pleasure to have my folk up here. Yeah. So, you know, to end this, we have to speak out, but we also have to mobilize. I'm not sure if I'm the one to do it because of what I talk about on here, right? Because I'm visible and I will be disagreeable for a lot of people. I'm probably not the one to move this needle. But some of y'all who are not as vocal on this type of conversation, on the normal conversations that we have, you have a greater chance of creating and mobilizing people than I do. If I had never done this, then I could do it. But I've done this, and that past will haunt me. And people will say, oh, good points, but he's not Christian. He talks about Christians. He demonized Christians. He breaks down our book. We don't like him. So I'm not going to follow anything that he says. Which is probably why my initiative back in the day to try to get Black churches to create a situation where they can rotate their money and actually build the Black community. Probably the main reason why it didn't work for me doing it is because it was me. So just like I say, Gaddafi, great idea, wrong person. In this instance, I have great ideas and great thoughts on how to move the needle to get people, especially the Black community, to build a stronger power base. I'm not the right person because of these conversations. But I would definitely support anybody else who takes that move. Now my phone is about to die, so TikTok's about to go out. But I appreciate you guys for being here and look forward to our live tomorrow. Have no idea what we're talking about. We'll be back into our normal type of conversation. So always remember, you have to free yourself to be yourself because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibrations. And share and like the videos that I send out later on today.